Chapter 321 The Temptation of Koyuki. After everything was arranged, most of Konoha's ninja troops set off overnight to head to the Kumogakure village headquarters. Only Tsunade Shizune and several high-level executives were left in Konoha, and Naruto used the technique of Hiraishin to transfer directly. This can be considered a high-level treatment. After returning home at night, Koyuki did not go to Tsunade's place to live, but stayed in Naruto's room. Because Naruto didn't bring Sayu Yugao and the three back to Konoha, he and Koyuki were the only ones at home at this time. And tomorrow, Naruto will transfer all Tsunade-sama to Kumogakure village headquarters. Koyuki sat next to Naruto, bowing his head and saying nothing. Naruto looked at her and said, "Koyuki, the next 4 battles are about to begin. You can't return to the snow country for the time being. After all, I don't feel relieved to let you leave alone, but the war is tense and I don't have time. I escorted you back, and you can stay with Konoha these days. Sorry for making you come to Konoha in high spirits, but encountered such a terrible thing as the Ninja World War." Quote. Koyuki shook his head slightly and whispered, "It's okay, Naruto, I'm very satisfied to see you again. You are Hokage, you have big things to do, don't worry about me." Naruto smiled slightly. Koyuki's careful and considerate appearance made him feel very cute. Such a girl, no matter how difficult the next battle, he must protect her. "Okay, it's getting late, rest early. I'll be going to the Kumogakure village headquarters from tomorrow. It's estimated that I won't have time to accompany you until the end of the war." After looking at the time, it's already midnight. Naruto is ready to leave. "Yeah." Koyuki nodded. Watching Naruto walk to the door, she suddenly stood up and shouted, "Naruto! What's wrong?" Naruto looked back at her, and under the light, Koyuki's face turned yui slightly. She raised her head and said softly, "Naruto, can you sleep here tonight?" Naruto was slightly taken aback. And Koyuki had already walked towards him, reached out to hold Naruto's hand that was going to open the door, and stared at him affectionately. "I hope you can stay with me." Feeling the incomparably sincere look in her eyes, Naruto couldn't help but jump slightly. His eyes swept across her pretty face, and embarrassedly said, "Is this not good?" Koyuki raised his head and tried his best to get close to him, and a faint scent of body suddenly spread into Naruto's nose. "Naruto, you're going to the battlefield tomorrow. Don't you even agree to this little request of mine tonight?" She looked at him pitifully, holding Naruto's arm tightly with both hands. Feeling her delicate body getting closer and closer, Naruto couldn't help hesitating. Koyuki was a girl who could make his heart move, otherwise he wouldn't have helped her so much in the snow country. "It's just that now, all I have in my heart is war, and I really don't have the mood to pay attention to other things." However, Koyuki seemed to see through Naruto's mind. Seeing his hesitation, she pulled Naruto's hands and sat on the edge of the bed. "Koyuki." Just when Naruto was about to say something, Koyuki suddenly rode on top of him and pushed his body onto the bed. "You." Naruto was startled. Koyuki's jade face was full of Yuhi's dizziness, water waves in his eyes, and he said shyly, "Naruto, you should know what I mean, right?" A green jade finger stood on Naruto's lips, preventing him from continuing to speak, and a faint voice sounded, "I know it's despicable for me to do this, to seduce you when there are no other girls around you, but there are other ways, Naruto, you know. In the land of snow, I think about you the most. Tenten is looking forward to seeing you. It will disturb you, I am afraid you will be unhappy. Now, I can finally lean against you at such a close distance. Your taste, I like it." Koyuki gently rested her tender face on Naruto's chest and said slowly. Naruto was touched by these words. He raised his hand and gently embraced Koyuki's delicate body, and said slowly, "Koyuki, I'm so sorry for making you wait so long." Koyuki smiled lightly, reached out to turn off the lights in the room, and then slowly unbuttoned Naruto's clothes, revealing his tough, well-proportioned muscles. "Naruto, you wouldn't hate me for doing this, would you?" Koyuki took off his clothes with trembling hands, exposing his infinitely beautiful upper body like agar white jade, and then gently leaned over pressed on Naruto's chest. The two people's muscles and skin were touching, and they felt each other's temperature. Naruto's hand involuntarily covered her smooth and jade-like back. The big hand with the scorching temperature suddenly made Koyuki couldn't help but let out a soft cry, and the whole body couldn't help but get slightly hot. Naruto. In the dark room, Koyuki's face was full of happiness and intoxication. She lowered her head and kissed the muscles on Naruto's chest inch by inch, feeling the intoxication on Naruto's body. The taste of Naruto was burnt by her actions and whispered, "Koyuki, you are trying to make me." Yes, Naruto, I want. Koyuki's delicate body kept twisting on his body, her body temperature was rising, and her heart was filled with incomparable love for Naruto. Love, she actually said words she had never imagined. Naruto was suddenly unbearable. Koyuki on his body was so eager to get his own care. Such a situation, as long as a man could not back down, let alone Naruto would not back down at all. Since Koyuki is so active, how can he ignore it? Holding her delicate body with both hands, he turned his body slightly, and Naruto had already pressed her under him. Holding his arms, he stared at Koyuki's hot and shy eyes, and said gently, "Be my woman." Koyuki. Yeah. Koyuki nodded vigorously, and the next moment she took the initiative to spread her legs, took off the clothes on her lower body, then stretched out her hand to hook Naruto's neck, and softly kissed Naruto with her soft lips. It has already reached this point, and Naruto naturally can't live up to her expectations. Although he has had relationships with Sayu, Shiro, Enko, Shizune, and others, if he has relationships with other women, it will become more and more complicated. However, a good girl is so eager for herself under her body, and the hidden scene makes it impossible to refuse. P.S. Yesterday, an old book friend raised an error in this book. I have contacted the editor to revise it this morning. I am very sorry for the inconvenience. The next is the end of the Fourth World War. I am not good at writing wars. If there are any shortcomings, please forgive me and give more opinions. Thank you. Chapter 322 Shion comes to find. A coquettish groan, Koyuki couldn't help raising his head and gently opened his sandalwood mouth. His eyebrows frowned slightly. Yuhiren's face turned pale, and immediately more beautiful Yuhi-tide surged. Naruto, I'm good. I'm happy, Koyuki said with embarrassment as he endured the pain of being ripped open for the first time. Naruto gently kissed her slightly open soft lips. His tongue wrapped around her lips, and then he quietly reached into and grabbed her soft clothes, sucked gently, and sucked up. Naruto, who has already had many experiences, is now very skilled. Koyuki was suddenly fascinated, and he forgot the pain under his body. His slender legs wrapped tightly around Naruto's waist, and his delicate body twisted slightly. Naruto. Koyuki kept murmuring Naruto's name from his throat, and under Naruto's love, his delicate body trembled slightly. Is it all right? Naruto knew she was very nervous when she felt the tightness under her body, but the place that held her firmly and brought her an infinitely beautiful experience made Naruto unable to stop moving. Naruto, you, come on. Koyuki nodded, squinting his eyes slightly, waiting for Naruto to attack him. The moonlit night was as cool as water, but the house was hot. The next morning, Koyuki lay contentedly in Naruto's arms. It's time to get up. I have to go to the Kumogakure village headquarters today. Naruto's fingers lightly brushed against Koyuki's silky fragrant back, and the slightly radiant skin seemed to be worse overnight. Koyuki's face was slightly Yuhi. He quietly opened his sleepy eyes, and said greasy, Naruto, my waist is a little sore. Sorry, I worked too hard last night. Naruto got up, put her gently on the bed, and started putting on his clothes. Koyuki shook his head. No need to apologize, I'm very happy. It's too late to be happy. Naruto smiled slightly. Koyuki's face Yuhi again Yuhi. However, this is really comfortable. Naruto, am I not ashamed? She gently pulled the quilt and covered most of her pretty face, revealing those extremely shy blue eyes, looking at Naruto like water. Naruto felt amused when he heard it. Last night Koyuki was shy and bold on the bed. He was screaming unscrupulously while his face was Yuhi. The reaction of his body was also very exaggerated. Naruto only felt that he was a little deeper. She trembled all over, and the honey juice poured out like Izumi water. However, it also made Naruto enjoy it a lot. Shaking his head, Naruto leaned on her forehead and kissed her gently. Koyuki, don't think too much, just stay in Konoha and wait for me to come back. You are already my woman, and I will always love you no matter what. Koyuki listened with a happy expression on his face. Watching Naruto get dressed and put on the Hokage symbol, looking at his tall and straight back, Koyuki felt extremely relieved and happy. I have finally become a Naruto woman. After leaving the room, Naruto hurriedly ate something and went directly to Hokage's office. Arrived in the house, there was a large group of people waiting here: Tsunade, Shizune, Yamanaka Inoichi, Nara Shikaku, and several elders, all of them standing there with serious expressions. Naruto's arrival shocked everyone. Seeing that he was only here now, Tsunade couldn't help but stepped forward and complained, Naruto, why are you late? Today is such an important day, as the 6th generation Hokage is still here. So late, really? Naruto touched his nose and felt ashamed. He had a hunch last night that if he did it with Koyuki, he would definitely be late today, but now it has come true. Seeing his embarrassed look, Tsunade stopped embarrassing him, glanced at everyone, and said, Naruto, we are all here now. Konoha's troops left last night, and we are all, please send it over. Naruto nodded and asked everyone to stand together. Less than 10 people stood in a circle, while Naruto stood in the circle, ready to activate Hiraishin. At this moment, Naruto's hands suddenly stopped, and he couldn't help looking out of the window in surprise. What's the matter? Tsunade asked, noticing his strangeness. Naruto gave a wry smile and muttered, why is she here? Who is it? Who are you saying? Hey, Naruto sighed with a big head. At this time of war, not only did Koyuki come, but through perception, even Shion came to Konoha now. Shion has the coordinates of Hiraishin on her body. Naruto sensed her immediately when he was about to start the spell, and she was already in Konoha village. At this moment, Shion has been stopped by 2 ninjas at the gate of the village. Who are you? During the martial law period, outsiders are not allowed to enter without authorization. Do you have a pass? The gatekeeper ninja asked Shion fiercely. Shion is not afraid of the other party at all, snorted and shouted, I am the witch of the land of ghosts, and you are good friends with the 6th generation of Hokage, please call him out to pick me up. Miko. The 2 gatekeeper ninjas glanced at each other, then glanced up and down Shion, and found that although she was very beautiful and dressed in luxurious clothes, there was no one around to guard her. It was unbelievable. Are you kidding me? Miko isn't staying in the land of ghosts, what are you doing out running around? And we, Lord Hokage, have something urgent to do right now, so I don't have time to talk to you. Shion was spit on his face. You don't believe me? Damn it. Let Naruto come out. As soon as he sees me, he will know immediately. You 2 little fellows, get out of the way. People, when they heard that they didn't let themselves in, they immediately screamed angrily. However, the 2 ninjas simply ignored her yelling and stood there just not letting her into the village. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, Shion Zhang shouted with a face. Naruto, come out quickly. I'm Shion. Did you forget our agreement? You promised to give me a baby. The next moment, just when Ziyuan was about to say that sentence, her mouth was already held by a pair of big hands, and she suddenly turned pale in shock and struggled with a look of horror. But at this time, the respectful voices of the 2 gatekeeper ninjas came. Lord Hokage. Chapter 323 Commander of the Special Combat Forces. Ziyuan was stunned when she heard the words. The next moment came a voice that was thinking day and night. Hey, Shion, don't scream. released her hand, Ziyuan turned around abruptly, hugged Naruto's waist all of a sudden, and said softly, "Naruto, I miss you. It took you so long to come out. Do you regret it? Don't want to promise me?" Naruto couldn't help but feel ashamed. Seeing the ambiguous expressions of the two gatekeeper ninjas, he hurriedly pulled Shion away and took her hand to the street. "Ziyuan, why are you here at this time? Really, war is about to break out now." Naruto sighed helplessly. Shion's aura just now. He immediately used the Hiraishin technique to teleport Tsunade and the others to Kumogakure village, and then flew back to appear beside her. Feeling her excited enthusiasm, Naruto felt very helpless. "Humph, I came all the way to find you. I'm not welcome at all, I'm not happy." Ziyuan turned her head and said, "It's a shame I've been thinking about having a baby with you." Ziyuan's voice was very loud, as if she was afraid that others would not know. Suddenly, all the pedestrians on the street looked towards Naruto, and rows of strange eyes suddenly focused on the two of them. Naruto is Hokage, although he didn't care about everyone's eyes at all before, but now, I don't know why everyone is looking at him like this, and he suddenly feels embarrassed. She hurriedly covered Ziyuan's delicate lips again, and said softly, "Don't be so loud, all right, for fear that others won't know." "Ah." Ziyuan struggled to take a bite on his hand, groaning angrily, "Who told you not to welcome me? My feet are about to break along the way." Seeing this, Naruto, who withdrew his hand, couldn't help but coax with a wry smile, "Okay, I welcome you, dear Mikasama." Thinking from another perspective, it is not easy for Shion to come to Konoha all the way, and it will indeed make people angry to say that. Sure enough, with just a little coax, a happy smile appeared on Ziyuan's delicate and tender face. That's right. Ziyuan took the initiative to pull up Naruto's big hand and touched his stomach with the other hand. "I'm hungry, take me to dinner." In the restaurant, Ziyuan poured bitter water on him, saying that she had never traveled so far, never suffered so much, and praised herself as being extremely clever and witty, excitedly telling Naruto about her own life. Passing on the road. After listening to Shion's words, Naruto couldn't help sweating on her forehead. With her reckless behavior, it was a blessing from God to be able to come to Konoha this time. Fortunately, I set spatial coordinates on her, and fortunately nothing happened to her. After eating, Shion asked Naruto about the war. After Naruto told her about the current situation, the excited expression on Shion's face suddenly changed, and he said weakly, "Hey. Naruto, am I causing you trouble?" "Huh." Naruto wants to say, "Nonsense, there is already a Koyuki here, you come here again to make a pair. It is very dangerous for two women with no force to stay in Konoha and get involved in the war." However, thinking that she is also infatuated with herself, and like Koyuki, she came here for her own sake. Of course, I can't say that. Although the two women have caused me a little trouble, Naruto will not hate it. On the contrary, it will be a little happy. After all, it is a very happy thing to be cared about by people so much. Shaking his head, Naruto held her round shoulders and said softly, "It's nothing, Shion, since you've come to Konoha, you should stay in Konoha for the time being, but I'm sorry that I can't accompany you all the time, frontline. I still need to go." At this time, Shion also realized the seriousness of the war, and felt a little guilty about her troublesome actions this time. At such a tense stage of the war, I was yelling willfully just now, Naruto must have a headache, right? However, despite this, Naruto is still not angry with himself, he is really gentle and considerate. Shion thought to herself, and when she heard Naruto's words, she hurriedly shook her head. "It's all right, anyway, I'm tired of staying in the land of ghosts. It's not bad to come to Konoha, Naruto, your war is important, so don't worry about me." Naruto nodded and said with a smile, "Then I'll arrange a place for you to stay first, and I'll take you to meet someone else at night." "Yeah," Shion replied obediently at this time, followed Naruto to a hotel, opened a room, Naruto ordered a few words and left Konoha. A Hiraishin appeared in the Kumogakure village. Because Naruto had already set spatial coordinates near the headquarters of Kumogakure village, he went directly to the center of the village under Hiraishin. Headquarters is an indoor hall arranged by Kumogakure village, but when Naruto walked in, he found Tsunade and other Konoha people talking with the other four shadows. As soon as Naruto arrived, Tsunade immediately stepped back and let Naruto preside over the matter. Naruto, what did you do when you went back just now? Now we are discussing the allocation of the combined forces. Since you are here, it is up to you to join the discussion. Tsunade said, standing beside him. Everyone couldn't help but be a little surprised. I didn't expect that the legendary Sannin, the violent Tsunade, actually valued Naruto so much. As a fifth-generation Hokage, she left the half of the discussion to Naruto. This is enough to see that Naruto is in Konoha. Influence ability in the village. Hokage and others couldn't help but secretly said. Naruto smiled and said, Master Tsunade, since you are already discussing with you, I will not disturb you, you can continue, I will just listen. Well, the qualifications of the fifth-generation Hokage are also sufficient. Since the sixth generation said so, let's continue. Hokage nodded. Tsunade could only nod helplessly. 5 shadows, no, 6 shadows discussed together for a long time, and with the help of others, they finally worked out a complete joint plan. Hokage's secretary, Mabuyi, passed the recorded plan to the public. Naruto looked at it and found that it was no different from the plan formulated in the original book, but Naruto became the commander of the special combat unit here. The samurai of the Iron Country participated, so the commander originally served by Mifune fell to Naruto. As for Naruto's consolation, although the shadows wanted to protect him on the grounds that he was a Jinchuriki column force, when they thought of Naruto's Hiraishin technique and his powerful strength, everyone couldn't say anything. Chapter 324 and Beauty Task. The specific plan has been established. Next, the 5 shadows are waiting for the arrival of the ninja army, and the task distribution of protecting the daimyo of various countries. Because the battle has just been prepared, the daimyo of the 5 major countries have not yet come to the headquarters, and they have also come with the ninja troops in the past 2 days. The Two Tails Jinchuriki column power and Killer Bee Jinchuriki column power are also carefully protected. Although Yugito and Killer Bee are very reluctant and want to participate in the battle, except for Naruto, everyone else has unanimously decided to take protective measures for them, rather than letting them go out and run around so they don't get caught. At this time, it is quite sensitive, and no accident is allowed. Naruto was walking in the Kumogakure village, watching the Kumogakure people evacuating the crowd in an orderly manner and arranging them to enter the war refuge area. Naruto sighed slightly in his heart. This farce-like war is only caused by personal grievances, but it will drag on the people of the whole world. Although Naruto is not the kind of person who is compassionate, he really can't bear this kind of reason. It's a matter of self-interest that has caused the whole world to be in turmoil. After all, Naruto doesn't want the world to be full of war. His wish is very simple, to be with the person he likes, to study the true meaning of the genin technique in his spare time, and to find out whether he can go back. They go to the beach together to bask in the sun, go to the amusement hall to play, or travel with them to explore the scenery of various countries. However, Akatsuki's are going to wage war, they are going to capture the tailed beast, and they are going to plunge the world into infinite moonlight. Although this is the world of Hokage, Naruto is just a traveler, but after so many years, he has developed a certain feeling for this world. Just like living in a strange city for more than 10 years in modern times, this place naturally inevitably generates feelings. Moreover, in this world, Naruto has realized what power is, and he has also experienced so many lovely and beautiful girls, and he has many friends who support him, even if these are only the two-dimensional world in his eyes before crossing, but it is really happening around me, and I have always experienced its real world. Therefore, he will not let the world be controlled by others, and will not let the plot of Akatsuki's enemies succeed. Fighting. Only by killing each other can everything be restored. He knew it. Naruto had reached the end of Kumogakure village, and there was no road ahead. However, when he looked up, he saw a vast sky. At this moment, a cold female voice suddenly came. Master Hokage of the 6th generation, Master Reikage asked me to take you to his place. He has something to discuss with you. Naruto turned around, and in front of him was Samui, Reikage's guard, a woman with a huge chest comparable to Tsunade. Taking back his thoughts, Naruto smiled and nodded, and followed her to the headquarters. Along the way, Samui just followed behind him meticulously, didn't say anything, just looked at him from time to time with a slight curiosity. At this time Naruto suddenly said, "Samui, do you know what happened to the 4th generation to let me go?" "Sorry, I'm just following Lord Reikage's orders, I don't know what the details are," Samui replied respectfully. Naruto sighed and stopped talking. Although Samui has a weapon that makes men feel extremely hot, his cold personality can also douse people's ashes. Although Naruto found her weapon very attractive, she didn't want to get close or tease because of it. After a while, the two came to the headquarters. Reikage was dealing with some things. When he saw the two coming, he stood up and walked towards Naruto. "6th generation, I want to ask you something, I wonder if you can agree," Reikage said. "You are the supreme commander, just mention anything." Naruto waved his hand and smiled. "Well, because there are still 2 days before the troops are assembled, the big names from various countries should be able to arrive here soon, but we must arrange for them to go to a safe place. Now we have found an address in the country of Thunder, but we still need to further investigation of threats and arrangements of enchantment measures. I heard that the 6th generation of Purpose Enchantment and Time and Space Ninja have high attainments. If you go, on the one hand, you can quickly detect the enchantment and set up the enchantment, and on the other hand, you don't have to worry about it here after all, there is a technique of Hiraishin that can go back and forth in an instant, right?" After listening to Reikage's words, Naruto thought for a moment and nodded. "Well, let me do this. Within 2 days, I promise to complete the task." "That's great, Samui knows about that place, let her go with you. Samui, you'll be on this mission with the 6th generation for the past 2 days, you can't miss it," Reikage called. Samui couldn't help but froze for a moment, but she quickly reacted, nodding and answering lightly, "Yes, Lord Reikage." With Samui, the 3 Sasu, who had been near Naruto, surrounded them. When they learned that Naruto was going to perform this task, they all said that they would go together. Naruto waved his hand and did not let them go. After all, this task is not difficult. Now is the time when there is a shortage of manpower. Rather than let them follow him, it is better to exert some strength here at the headquarters. Without Naruto's permission, the 3 girls had different reactions, because seeing this pretty big-breasted beauty beside Naruto, Yugao immediately thought that Naruto wanted to attack this beauty, and his eyes couldn't help but cast contempt. Doubtful eyes. Yugao, Zuiyu was very jealous of the beauty beside Naruto, and couldn't help but quietly pulled Naruto over and said, "Naruto, you already have us, you can't mess around with flowers, you know." Naruto couldn't help sweating wildly, and it seemed that he was really regarded as a big radish. But fortunately, what comforted him was that Shiro didn't say anything. "Why?" Sighing silently, Naruto couldn't help but sigh, but he didn't expect that he would be worried if he just went out with a beauty to do a mission. Chapter 325 Raider. After saying goodbye to the 3 girls, Naruto left Kumogakure village under the leadership of Samui and went to the secret address. The 2 were on the road. Samui was not fast, but Naruto's eyes were always looking at her bulging chest involuntarily. Because of the running, Samui's 2F cup meat mountains kept shaking up and down. It was hard not to pay attention to this situation. At this time, although Samui didn't turn her head, she could still feel Naruto's eyes constantly falling on her body. She lowered her head slightly to look at her breasts, which were far beyond the average person's chest, and there was an unnatural flash of Yuhi dizziness on her face. This young Hokage doesn't seem to be a decent person, Kunzi. Slight frown, Samui slowed down a little, let Naruto run in front of her, and said lightly, 6th Hokage, as a ninja, you should be cool, don't you think? Hearing her suddenly speak, Naruto couldn't help but froze for a moment, but he didn't know that Samui's good impression of him had been wiped out by Naruto's eyes just now. Hearing the words at this time, he replied, well, it's not bad to be cool. Really, do you think you're cool, Lord Hokage? Samui asked with a hint of playfulness, with a slight tick on his lips. Naruto was a little strange. He thought for a while and said, I think it's better for you to ask other people about this question. Samui was taken aback for a moment, then a slight smile flashed on his face. Forget it, I think I already know the answer. Naruto didn't know why, so he smiled and touched his nose. It's here. After a long time, the two who were running all the way finally stopped in a closed forest. Naruto looked forward and saw several buildings built in lush woods appearing in sight. Is it here? Naruto asked, turning his head. Samui nodded. Well, this is indeed a quiet place. Naruto said slowly. In this forest, the air is fresh, the birds are singing and the flowers are fragrant. It is indeed a kind of enjoyment for the daimyo to take refuge here. The time is short, we can only prepare here for the daimyo. There was originally a secret base, but it was too late to arrange everything, so I have to choose this place now. Lord Hokage, it's up to you next. Samui gently stroked her short yellow hair, pulled out the short knife hanging from her waist, and carefully observed the surrounding environment. Seeing that she was trying to investigate something, Naruto waved his hand to stop her, and said, leave the investigation to me too. Samui was stunned for a moment, but saw that Naruto had already squatted down, closed his eyes slightly and placed one hand on the ground, feeling it carefully. Naruto is still very confident in his own perception ability. The perception of good and evil, coupled with the perception through the force of nature, almost no ninja can escape. However, in order to prevent this latent master, Naruto still has to carefully perceive the range below the ground. Ju's ability is to perfectly integrate with the earth and plants. Except for Naruto's perception with the power of nature, it is really difficult for others to perceive his existence. The power of the dragon veins in Naruto's body comes from the ground. At this time, the single touch, through the perception of the power of nature under the ground, has a general understanding of everything within a few kilometers around. Opening his eyes, Naruto's eyes flashed a clear smile. No problem, just go to the building and check it out. Naruto got up and smiled. Samui did not suspect him, nodded and entered the pavilion of refuge first. There was no one in the room, but Samui watched the surroundings cautiously. Naruto nodded slightly, followed her in, and watched her work meticulously and seriously. It was really good. After a while, Samui returned to Naruto and said, no problem on the first floor, let's go to the second floor. Naruto nodded a little, but his brows were wrinkled, and his eyes inadvertently glanced at the big trees outside the building. On the second floor, after a few general inspections, Samui breathed a sigh of relief and leaned against the railing of the balcony to rest. Lord Hokage, it seems that this side has not been paid attention by the enemy. Next, we only need to do the escort tasks of the daimyo. Samui said. Well, the scenery here is pretty good, why don't we take a rest here first? Naruto looked at her with a faint smile. When Samui was stunned for a moment, he suddenly stretched out his hand, and a faint light flew out of his palm in an instant. Flew towards Samui with lightning speed. Samui couldn't help but be startled, wondering why Naruto attacked her when there was a strong wind behind him. Go to hell, quack! A strange laugh suddenly sounded, and Samui hurriedly turned around in shock. But Naruto's speed was faster than her. As soon as she turned around, Naruto flashed a Hiraishin technique in front of her, punching a dark figure on the opposite side. Back at Samui's side, Naruto looked down at the fallen Black Zetsu and smiled faintly. I finally lured you out. It turned out that Black Zetsu had been reconnaissance for the intelligence of the coalition forces before, and when he learned that this was the place where the daimyo took refuge, he came over and lurked here early. However, in fear of Naruto, Black Zetsu has always just been hiding and Plum Blossom has a shot. Later, when he found that the two of Naruto seemed to be relaxed, he planned to give them a slap in the face. But he didn't want to. Naruto used his natural perception ability to perceive a strange existence when he was investigating the underground, and he guessed that it might be nearby. Sure enough, as he expected, when he deliberately cooperated with Samui to reveal his flaws, this guy really made a sneak attack. It's a pity that with Naruto's premeditated plan and Hiraishin, Black Zetsu couldn't succeed at all. Then that Samui realized that he had encountered a sneak attack, and it was Naruto who saved him just now. This guy, is it Akatsuki, S2? Samui, who had reacted, clenched his dagger and stared at Black Zetsu with his beautiful blue eyes, and asked Naruto. Yes, his detection and lurking ability is very strong. Even me, if I don't perceive it carefully, it will be difficult to find out his specific location. Damn it. Samui snorted softly, and jumped directly from the balcony in the next moment, volleying towards the place where Black Zetsu was. Chapter 326 Valley Base. Seeing Samui flying down, Black Zetsu immediately sank to the ground. Samui's body just fell to the ground, and the attack was already in vain. At this moment, Black Zetsu suddenly emerged from the ground behind her, raised her arm, and instantly countless leaves flew towards Samui's back. Samui sensed the danger behind him, turned his body sharply, and the short knife in his hand danced into an afterimage, tinkling Hanabi, and those golden and iron-like leaves were resisted. At this time, Naruto, who was still on the pavilion, suddenly turned into a golden light and disappeared, and appeared behind Black Zetsu in an instant. Rasengan. A blue light flashed instantly, and a strong Uzumaki airflow exploded behind Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu, who had just finished using ninjutsu, immediately screamed. His body was slammed to the ground cracked, and the spiral gas dancing wildly. The art of Hiraishin, Samui secretly praised. Only after seeing this instantaneous speed, can he truly understand the terrifying strength of Naruto. This Black Zetsu was not bad at first, but under Naruto's hands, it's just for being killed in seconds. The dust has settled. Naruto stood up and frowned slightly as he looked at the dying Black Zetsu in the big pit he blasted out. Samui also came to Naruto to look at Black Zetsu, and said coldly, "Who are you? What is Akatsuki doing now?" Gia, I won't tell you anything. The Ninja Alliance is doomed to fail, just wait and see. Black Zetsu, whose figure was already twisted, smiled strangely, looked at Naruto and said, I didn't expect you. The time and space coordinates have been placed on me just now, and the action is really fast, but this is just my clone, and the information here has already been. Quote. Kai. A flash of sword light flashed. Samui narrowed his almond eyes with frost on his face, and cut off Black Zetsu's head before he could finish his arrogance. Damn. Samui retracted his dagger with a look of resentment. I didn't expect Akatsuki to go deep into our rear. Seeing her angry look, Naruto shook his head and said, It seems that we can only find another refuge. I wanted to solve this guy here, but I didn't expect it to be a clone. Watching Black Zetsu's body gradually soften into a pile of black matter, Naruto put away kunai and turned around and said, Let's go, take me to another secret base while there is still time. Samui had no choice but to put the dagger back into his waist, straightened his clothes that were a little messy due to the battle, nodded in response, bowed to Naruto and said, Thank you Lord Hokage for saving you just now. It's okay. Naruto waved his hand, watching the scene of the two hanging meat mountains shaking violently when she bowed down. Chunin's heart couldn't stop jumping, and then he quickly looked away. Killing the Black Zetsu clone, Samui went to another address at Naruto's suggestion, but it was still a long way from here. The two continued their journey, and finally came to that place before the sun went down. It turned out to be a remote valley. The entire valley was covered by tall and strange-looking trees. After entering this valley, Samui brought Naruto 7. After turning 8 turns and passing through a dense path, I finally came to a fairly open area. Naruto looked around, but saw an artificial stone platform right in front of him. Is it here? Well, decades ago, this place was used as a place to store the secret items of the village, and there was a barrier itself, but now it's deserted, and all the items inside have been removed. Maybe the barrier is still useful. Samui, as he said that, he walked towards the underground entrance, which happened to have a staircase that separated the outside world from the passage. Samui made a slight seal on his hands and shouted at the slate, "Solution." The stone slabs were immediately separated to both sides, revealing the stone steps inside. Looking at Naruto, Samui walked in first, followed by Naruto. In such a secret place, you are willing to bring me here? After the long underground corridor, Naruto couldn't help sighing as he looked at the few oil lamps that were still lit around the corridor. Samui's cold voice came. I am considering the overall situation. Although you Konoha and our Kumogakure have always been at odds, this crisis is related to the whole ninja world. As an elite ninja of Kumogakure, you must know how to adapt. Naruto smiled slightly. It seems that you are quite reasonable. Samui glanced at him lightly after hearing the words, and stopped talking. Finally, the two of them walked to the end of the underground corridor. In front of Naruto was a huge stone gate, with some strange ghosts and gods engraved on the stone gate. Samui said, "It's the most important place in this base." After a few moments, "The big names will live here." Quote. Naruto nodded. Samui stepped forward and stretched out his white and tender jade hand to press on the huge stone door, frowning slightly. "The seal here has not been moved for a long time. I only know how to solve it, and it is the first time to use it. Lord Hokage, please retreat first. Open a little." Naruto took a few steps back as he said, watching her play with it. Samui made a few complicated seals on his hands, and then pressed his hands on the stone gate with a snap, and a slight chakra wave spread suddenly, and the look on Samui's face loosened slightly. "The seal has been lifted. Speaking of which, this is the first time I have entered here." Samui's tone was slightly tense. It can make a woman who looks so calm and composed at ordinary times nervous, but it seems that this place is very secret. I am afraid it is no less than the training place of tailed beasts in Yunlei Gorge. At this moment, Samui has stepped forward and pushed open the huge stone door. However, because the stone door has not been opened for a long time, a lot of dust has accumulated. As soon as the door was opened, it fell down and fell all over Samui. "It's hard work." Naruto stepped forward and waved his hand. A gust of breeze blew past, and immediately blew the dust out of her body. Samui was stunned for a moment, then turned around and gave him a thankful smile. Seeing the rare smile on her face, Naruto couldn't help being stunned. He didn't expect her smile to be so bright. He had never seen her smile along the way. He saw more beautiful women. At this time there was also a sense of surprise. Seeing Naruto looking at him in a daze, Samui frowned slightly, feeling a strange feeling in his heart, and quickly turned back and entered inside. Naruto, who knew that he was a little rude, also smiled awkwardly and walked in. Chapter 327 Amazing Discovery. Let's start, Lord Hokage. After walking around the hall for a few times, Samu found nothing special, because it was just a larger room. And because this place is going to be a place of refuge for the daimyo, some of the original seals and enchantments are no longer enough. On this basis, it must rely on Naruto plus multiple insurances. Well, leave it to me. Naruto closed his eyes and started hand seal with both hands. After a few minutes, Naruto let out a slight sigh, squatted down and pressed on the ground, and said with a smile, "Okay, I have already arranged all the barriers, and I have also set up the spacetime coordinates here, and then I will directly send the names of the great names. Just send it over." Quote. After everything was done, the two of them walked out of the underground secret room in the next time and carefully scouted around the valley. After finding that there were no traces of any enemies around, Samui breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that this place is here. There should be no problem. Well, I have already fully sensed it just now. Apart from plants and animals, there is no one in the valley. Naruto said. He looked up at the night, and before he knew it, it was night. A grunt sounded, and both of them couldn't help but froze for a moment. Immediately, a flash of Yuhi dizziness flashed across Samui's face. He reached out and touched his stomach. Naruto responded with a smile and said, "Haha, yes, we haven't eaten for a day." "Wait a minute. Aren't we going back first?" Samui with a pheasant and a hare in his hand. "Lord Hokage, are you trying to eat game?" Samui wondered. Naruto smiled slightly. "It's rare to come out here, just go back here after you've had enough. Anyway, with my skills, you can go back at any time." Okay, then there is Mr. Hokage. Samui thanked him. He couldn't see that Hokage was very gentle and considerate at such a young age. A smile flashed on Samui's grim face, watching Naruto grill the meat, and he came forward to help him make it together. After eating the barbecue, both of them rested contentedly against the tree trunk. After spending all these time together, Samui also learned that although Naruto is the shadow of a village, he doesn't have the air of being a big man. Then, Naruto is indeed more mature, so it is not surprising that such a person can become Hokage. The night was like water. After the two rested for a while, Samui suddenly felt a little urge to urinate. He glanced at Naruto who was resting with his eyes closed slightly, his face slightly Yuhi. After hesitating for a while, he gently got up and left the place. "What's wrong?" Naruto suddenly opened his eyes and asked. He didn't know Samui was going to pee, he thought it was something unexpected. "No, nothing, I'll just walk around." Samui wouldn't say "I'm going to pee," just made up an excuse and walked away. Naruto didn't stop him, and continued to sit in place and closed his eyes. After a while, Naruto opened his eyes and looked around, but he couldn't find Samui's figure. He couldn't help feeling a little strange. But after a moment of perception, I immediately knew her position. "It's time to go back now," Naruto muttered and walked in the direction he felt. However, when he walked into a bush by a small river, his spirit was shocked. Because he had already heard a rustling sound of water in his ears, and Samui's breath was right in front of him. Naruto couldn't help but stun for a moment, stretched out his hand and opened the grass in front of him, and looked over. Forehead. The next moment, Naruto's entire body shook, and in his sight, an extremely beautiful body was immersed in water. Taking a shower. Naruto was immediately embarrassed. He didn't expect that Samui didn't come back for so long because he was bathing in this river. Turning around quickly, Naruto planned to leave this place, but after taking a step, he was suddenly attracted by a strange moan. This crisp and melodious "Jiao, yin," came from Samui's mouth. Naruto immediately stopped as if struck by lightning, and the next moment, he turned around like a ghost, and carefully opened the bushes again and looked over. The darkness of the night, although it is not very clear, Samui's snow-like skin exudes a radiance like white jade under the moonlight. In the flowing water, her infinitely beautiful body is immersed in the water, revealing the two upper body parts. An incomparably towering Roshan, the exaggerated curve looks even more charming in the moonlight. And more importantly, what attracted Naruto the most was not these, but at this moment her tender white jade hands were rubbing constantly on her two mountains of meat. With the regular rubbing movement, a faint lewd and screaming sound came out of her mouth intermittently. No way, this is Samui with a cold and calm personality on the surface. Naruto's eyes widened as he stared at the figure in the river in disbelief. Seeing her mouth slightly open, her eyes half squinted, she continued to soothe herself, and Naruto's heart burst into flames. Incredible, I actually let myself discover such an incredible secret. Samui hides such a warm heart under his cold exterior. Samui gradually changed from having both hands on his chest and moving his body, to one hand on his chest and the other hand reaching underwater and moving. Of course Naruto knows what this is doing. Masturbation. Naruto suddenly felt his mouth dry, and his body immediately bulged high, and suddenly there was an urge in his heart to show up and comfort her thoughts. However, after hesitating for a while, he gave up the idea. Compared to other people's self-comfort, it would be worse to squat on the side and peep like a wretched man, right? I have always despised Jiraiya's voyeurism. If I want a woman, I will do it in an upright manner, and it is too tasteless to hide and watch quietly. Thinking of this, Naruto stood up decisively, left the place, and walked back. Chapter 328 Difficult to Self-Control. Back at the place, Naruto continued to sit down, closed his eyes and practiced chakra, waiting for Samui to come back. However, the scene that I just saw was always involuntarily jumping out of my mind. When I remembered how her small hands were trying their best to comfort the two majestic hills, Naruto could not wait to use his big hands instead. Shaking his head, Naruto tried his best to get rid of these strange thoughts, but Samui's cold face suddenly changed into a lewd and slutty expression. This made him a little unable to control himself, and a tent was bulged high under him. Damn it, why do you want me to see this kind of content? Naruto sighed, and began to think of a way to suppress the ashes with his greatest perseverance. Otherwise, when Samui comes back and sees his gaffe, he will definitely be noticed. After a while, there was a sound of footsteps, and Samui finally came back. At this time, Naruto had some sweat on his forehead, because he took a lot of effort to suppress the ashes. At this time, seeing Samui's expressionless return to the place, he immediately thought of the scene just now in his mind, and the urge to rise again from the ashes. Fortunately, Naruto's self-control was not bad, and he controlled himself and did not show any strangeness. Lord Hokage, I'm sorry for keeping you waiting, Samui said with a slight Yuhi dizziness on his face. Naruto stood up, trying not to look at her two towering mountains of meat, and asked knowingly, what are you doing? Your hair is still wet. There was a flash of panic in Samui's eyes, but he calmed down immediately, and said a little embarrassedly, because I was dirty with dust in the underground secret room just now, I felt a little uncomfortable. There happened to be a river there just now, so I went in and washed. A bath, Hokage-sama, I hope you don't mind. She bowed slightly apologetically. Well, that's how it is. Naruto also pretended not to know and responded to her. It's okay, since the matter has been dealt with, let's go back. Samui nodded slightly, walked to Naruto's side, reached out and grabbed Naruto's arm. Let's get started. Naruto couldn't help but twitch in his heart, and his eyes couldn't help falling on her pair of white jade-like tender hands, which were caressing wantonly just now, touching those two meat mounds. And, thinking of those charming scenes, Naruto became a little restless. What's the matter, Lord Hokage? Samui felt inexplicably panic when he saw him staring at his hand in a daze. No, it's nothing. Naruto quickly recovered his mind, chakra fainted, and between scene transitions, the valley suddenly turned into a village. The two have returned to the streets of Kumogakure village. Feeling the magic of this fleeting moment, Samui couldn't help showing a look of admiration on her face. After letting go of Naruto's arm, she thanked again, today's task is really hard on you. I won't disturb you, I'll say goodbye first. Leaning slightly, Samui turned and left the place. Naruto looked at her back for a while, and then sighed slightly and shook his head and left. For Naruto, what impressed me the most in this mission was not Black Zetsu's sneak attack, nor the secrets of the underground room, but Samui's inconsistent appearance, secretly masturbating, and comforting. Thinking of such a peerless beauty doing such a thing in the river, Naruto couldn't bear it no matter how calm he was. Figure flashed, and a Hiraishin technique disappeared in place. In Konoha village, Shion was sitting on the bamboo couch in the room, her hands resting on her cheeks in a sleepy state, and she kept mumbling, liar, big liar, big liar. Quote. Suddenly, a golden light flashed, and Naruto's figure appeared in front of Shion. Shiyuan was immediately shocked, and suddenly stood up and grabbed Naruto's arm with both hands. Naruto. Ziyuan, I'm sorry I'm late. Today I promised you to come back and take you to meet someone, but I have a temporary mission. I've only come here now, making you wait for a long time. Naruto held her soft arm. Sorry Road. At this time, Shion was still a little sleepy, although it was almost midnight now. She usually fell asleep long ago, only today because Naruto said that she would come back, so she persisted until now. However, after listening to Naruto's apology, although Shion no longer had any dissatisfaction in her heart, she still puffed out her mouth and hummed softly and complained, HMPH, it's really not punctual. It's so late now, I almost asleep. Naruto smiled apologetically. Fortunately, the task was completed in one day, otherwise I might have to make her wait for a day in vain. Seeing that she didn't change her clothes, Naruto knew that if she didn't come, she might have been waiting like this until dawn. Holding her round shoulders, Naruto pushed her onto the bed in the room and said with a smile, Okay, Shion, it's my fault for being late today. I'll bring her directly to see you tomorrow morning. Now you are here first. Go to sleep and rest, and I won't disturb you. After saying that, Naruto turned around and left. Zewan suddenly shouted, Naruto, are you not here with me? Naruto was stunned for a moment, then turned around and smiled, there's only one bed here, I'd better go back and rest. Zewan stood up and pulled his face slightly. Yuhi said, what's a bed for? We can sleep together. Really? Then I can't ask for anything. Hearing her words, Naruto stared at her warmly. Well, since I have already promised to give you a baby, then I will. Do it. She looked at Ziyuan with a face, Yuhi, and her heart was beating wildly. Will he really stay? Oops. Just saying it casually. What if he really stayed? Although I am very willing to be with him, but I'm not ready yet. If I knew it earlier, I wouldn't say it. Really, why are you so impulsive? Seeing Shion's hands twisting each other at a loss, Naruto of course knew that a girl of her age, like Sakura Ino, was still in the stage of puberty, and she would definitely be very nervous about those things. Yuhi's face with both hands, and said with a smile, Okay, I'm joking with you. Seeing how nervous you are, I won't bother you anymore. You go to sleep first, I go back and see you tomorrow. Chapter 329 Join. Early the next morning, Naruto took Koyuki to see Shion. When Shion saw this beautiful woman beside Naruto, the expression on her face suddenly became a little depressed. Naruto, is she the one you said you want to take me to see? Zewan pouted slightly. Naruto nodded. Koyuki introduced herself to her again, and the image of a gentle and polite big sister immediately made Shion unable to get angry. Because Naruto tossed Koyuki again after returning to the house last night, making her spring and tide again and again, at this time there was still a trace of Yuhi dizzy on her face. It was simply beautiful, compared to Koyuki's graceful figure. Shion's petite body was a little ashamed in front of her. After getting acquainted with each other for a while, Naruto said, Koyuki, you are the Lord Kun of the Land of Snow, and Shion is the Witch of the Land of Ghosts. You two are the arrogant women of the heaven above all people. We will be together from now on. You can also take care of each other. You will stay in the village during this time, and I will come back to see you when I have time. Quote. Yeah, the two women nodded. Naturally, they knew that Naruto had a war to prepare for. Although they were a little worried and reluctant, they really couldn't intervene in the war. The only thing they could do was to stay silent behind the scenes. Pray for him. Then let's do it first. I'll go first. Naruto waved to the two women, and after a golden light flashed, the man disappeared in front of them. The two women couldn't help showing a disappointed expression on their faces. Hey, this damn war. Koyuki muttered bitterly. Shion also sighed. Yeah, but Naruto once defeated the monster and saved the world. I believe he will definitely end this war. A day later. The Kumogakure village was crowded with people, and the five shadows stood on the huge high platform, looking down at the tens of thousands of ninjas below. Naruto only felt a black head in his eyes. As the commander of the special combat unit, Naruto is also receiving the attention of everyone below. Great, Naruto is the commander of the Special Combat Unit. I am also a member of this unit. I can fight alongside Naruto on the battlefield. The well below looked at Naruto's figure and shouted happily. Sakura, who is a medical unit, envies Ino a little. Being able to fight with Naruto is her dream. After Naruto becomes stronger and stronger, she rarely faces the enemy with Naruto. However, she also knows that her role as a medical ninja is to silently heal everyone in the rear, which is the greatest contribution she can make. In addition to Sakura Ino, Hinata is also in the melee troupe. As the eldest lady of the Hyuga clan, this is the first time she has faced this dangerous battlefield, but when she thinks of Naruto, she is no longer afraid, and her heart seems to be filled with infinite courage. The war has finally begun. At this time, the masked man in Akatsuki had all his cards. Using chakra, the tailed beast in Nagato's Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, the masked man has produced 100,000 white zetsu. However, at this time, the organization is also arguing. Because the masked man started a war, and used the tailed beast chakra to create so many white zetsu, Nagato and Konan, who were behind the control of Pain's 6 paths, couldn't understand. Madara, the purpose of collecting tailed beasts was to shock the world with force, not to let you launch some kind of moon eye plan. I really don't understand your plans. Nagato, who was sitting on the high seat, looked in front of him. The masked man frowned. Nagato, you must know that our organization has been completely exposed now, and all countries are carrying out all-out siege against us. If we don't fight back, let alone collect tailed beasts, it is very likely that even the base will be besieged. But the tailed beasts have not been collected yet, and now there is no other way but to fight. The masked man said lightly. However, we can hide and look for opportunities in the dark. Why should we start a war? Konan on the side said coldly. With the current situation, we have been cornered by you. So you are too naive. It's not destined to be a big deal. The masked man snorted coldly. We have long been exposed. How can ninjas from all over the world let us off so easily? The world has already abandoned me all. You too, but what kind of war do you still care about? HMPH. As long as the final peace can be achieved, the history of the ninja world will be changed by me. You're right, but the tailed beasts have not been collected yet, and our strength is still lacking. As far as these white zetsus you made, I don't think they can be shocking at all. Nagato said. So now the most important thing is to find a way to collect the tailed beasts. I can use these white zetsu troops to hold the ninja troops, and the 2 tails, 8 tails and Kyubi 9 tails must be collected by you. They are completely vigilant. We don't have this chance. Konan shook his head helplessly. Our plan has deviated from the original setting. Konan, your concerns are meaningless. We were destined to face these when we were on this road, and now it's just ahead of schedule. As Akatsuki creators, are you still afraid of these? Masked Man indifferently said. I can hold them back here. As long as you can collect the remaining tailed beasts, victory will eventually belong to us. The masked man said loudly. We have no way out. We can only move forward firmly. Only then can peace be achieved. The 2 of Nagato nodded involuntarily. At this moment, a deep voice suddenly sounded in the ears of several people. Everyone, I think I can help you. Several people were suddenly slightly startled, and all looked at the door, only to see a figure shrouded in gray robes walking in. There was a cold and sinister aura about him. You are Orochimaru's subordinate Yakushi Kabuto. When the masked man saw the person in front of him, his tone became even more surprised. The Orochimaru guy is dead. I didn't expect you to be alive. Konan frowned and looked at Kabuto. Yeah, Master Orochimaru was killed by Uchiha Seijutsu. I transplanted the cells from his body and gained a new power. How can this ninja war be without me? Kabuto's back the big snake hissed and spit out the letter, and smiled coldly. Humph. Then what do you mean by helping us? The masked man said coldly. We will not accept a dangerous spy in the organization. Chapter 330 Conspiracy and Plan. What? You You actually. Looking at the scene in front of him, the masked man couldn't help being shocked. The faces of Nagato and Conan were also full of surprise. Kabuto smiled slightly. How? This is Orochimaru-sama's impure world reincarnation technique. I have completely inherited it from him. Besides, I will do better than him. The sub-coffin, the coffins are all Kage-level powerhouses of the previous generation. How's it going? My combat power is more than that. There's something even more surprising to you next. Kabuto smiled proudly, looking at the masked man with deep meaning. His eyes suddenly made the masked man nervous. Did this guy know something? Three stared at Kabuto in a long silence. Finally, the masked man said coldly, "What do you want?" Kabuto smiled and spread his hands. Actually, what I want is very simple. I just want to fulfill the unfulfilled last wish of Lord Orochimaru. Masked man. Okay, I can't say more. Have you thought about it? Do you want to establish an enemy like me? Or cooperate with me, and I will help you fight the ninja coalition? Kabuto smiled lightly. On the coalition side, the major ninja units have already set off to resist the white Zetsu unit sent by the masked man. 5 shadows are discussing the details of the matter at the headquarters. At this time, Naruto suddenly sensed a person's breath, and a smile appeared on his face. The next moment, a tall figure walked into the headquarters. Sanin Jiraiya. Raikage was slightly startled. Haha, it looks like I'm not too late. Jiraiya laughed and said, I have important information here, do you want to listen? What is it? Everyone was slightly shocked. Orochimaru's spy Yakushi Kabuto has joined Akatsuki, and the other party has inherited Orochimaru's ninjutsu. It seems that the master has a very important resource. Jiraiya said with a serious face. Slightly startled, Naruto frowned. Yakushi Kabuto was an unstable character. He wanted to kill him for a long time, but it was a pity that he and Orochimaru were hiding too well, and their actions were erratic. It's not enough, it's difficult to kill him, but now it's too late to stop him. If he still develops as the original plot, the power of impure world reincarnation is very terrifying. Moreover, now Uchiha Itachi did not give himself the power of Koto Amatsukami, and Naruto had difficulty contacting him at this time, not knowing what he was thinking. But he guessed that with Itachi's current power, it would be very difficult to organize Kabuto's impure world reincarnation. In this way, the incomprehensible impure world reincarnation will surely become the biggest difficulty in this ninja war. So, after thinking about it for a while, Naruto and Jiraiya decided to go to Akatsuki in person and kill the current Kabuto before he has summoned a large number of impure world reincarnation characters. Eliminate this potential danger. After telling the other 4 shadows about this proposal, they all felt that it was feasible, and they no longer worried about what danger they would encounter. After all, even if the plan did not come true, with Naruto's Hiraishin technique, they could still easily escape. In the village of Omegakure, the masked man is secretly discussing something with Kabuto. Afe, let's just call you Afe, this time we are cooperating, that guy seems reluctant. Kabuto said with a smile. You mean Nagato, the masked man said lightly. What do you think? Your plan is not perfect this time. Even if you can convince him temporarily, the rest of Akatsuki may not necessarily listen to you. HMPH, those guys are just my pawns, and Nagato is no exception. The masked man said coldly. What about Uchiha Itachi? He's a very unsettling factor. Kabuto smiled lightly. The masked man fell silent. At this moment, Kabuto suddenly said again, actually, Akatsuki now has no major role. I think you are also very coveted by Nagato's Rinnegan. Why don't we? Squinting his eyes slightly, the masked man stared at the smiling and sinister Kabuto, and suddenly said, it seems that you are indeed talented. It's just, why can I trust you? I have a way to convince you of this, and, in order to gain your trust, I will collect the 2 tails and the 8 tails for you. Kabuto chuckled, but the premise is that you have to help me restrain Naruto Uzumaki. His time-space ninjutsu is a big trouble. Originally, I was worried that there was not enough time. Since you and Nagato are here, Orway and Yahweh should be fine. It just so happens that another plan of mine can be implemented. The masked man smiled lightly. On the other side, after Naruto and Jiraiya made a plan, they were ready to go. In order not to be detected by the opponent Black Zetsu, the two mixed in with the medical team that was about to leave. Headed by Shizune belongs to the logistics unit, and immediately after departure, it is divided into several teams and goes to the rear of other units to carry out medical rescue at any time. Jiraiya and Naruto also deliberately separated at this time, using their own means to sneak into the Omegakure village. After all, as long as either one of the two sneaks in, it is a success, and the two act separately, which can also increase the difficulty of each other's detection. After setting up the Hiraishin spell on Jiraiya, Naruto set off with her medical team at Sakura's suggestion. Jiraiya, on the other hand, was with another medical team. Mixed in the medical team, everyone was ready to be stationed when it was dark. After stopping at a valley mouth, everyone rested. As soon as Naruto sat down, the other ninjas in the team all looked at him, and among them, many female medical ninjas continued to cast admiring glances at him. This made Sakura on the side look very annoyed, and secretly shouted in his heart, "You ignorant girls. Now that the ninja world is fighting, it's still a nympho." As everyone knows, she also has the idea of being alone with Naruto in her heart. Holding a piece of cake, Sakura quietly came to Naruto who was sitting on the ground with his eyes closed, and handed it to him softly. "Naruto, this is the cake I made before I set off, you can try it." Naruto opened his eyes and looked at Sakura with a slight smile. "Thank you." After taking it, he tasted it, and it tasted alright. He couldn't help boasting, "Sakura, your craftsmanship is pretty good." At this time, the other boys and girls on the side looked like they were heartbroken. Damn it, if only Hokage-sama could laugh at me like that. It would be worth it if I died right away. Ah, when will my Sakura-sama make me a snack? Chapter 331 Limited Moon. Listening to the voice not far away, Sakura's face slightly turned Yuhi, and Naruto also felt a little embarrassed. But now is not the time to slack off. Thinking of the urgency of time, he stood up after eating and said, "Sakura, I think I have to go first. I must have been able to hide it from the eyes and ears of the other party during this period of time. I have to infiltrate the Omegakure village quickly, so I won't be here any longer." "Huh, Naruto, are you leaving now?" But Sakura felt a little reluctant when she heard this, thinking that such a rare opportunity to get along was about to be lost. She suddenly lost her face, but Naruto had a major task. How can oneself be willful? Sighing slightly, Sakura gave Naruto the rest of the pastry. "Okay, the task is important, Naruto, you can save it on the road." "Thank you." Naruto smiled lightly, said thanks, put away the cakes and was about to leave. However, at this moment, a strange wave suddenly appeared in the space, and Naruto frowned suddenly. Looking in the direction of the wave, he was greatly surprised. Immediately afterwards, a figure slowly emerged. It was the masked man Obito. Madara. Sakura's pupils shrank slightly. This is the biggest enemy who started the war. She was tense all over and she was about to rush to fight against it. The masked man didn't even look at Sakura. He just stared at Naruto and said coldly, "It's really hard to find you. I didn't expect you to hide in this squad. It seems that you want to implement some plan. Is it?" Naruto didn't expect him to appear here, and it seemed that he was looking for him. His face was full of confusion. Did he already know his plan with Jiraiya? "I didn't expect you to come to me. Do you have something to say to me?" Naruto said with a blank expression. "Haha, I've already said what I should say. This time I'm here to prepare a big gift for you." The masked man sneered. "Try my new technique. This technique will bring you into an imaginary the world in the middle. The limited Yudu created by combining Kamui and Yudu." "What is the limit to the moon?" Naruto was slightly startled, but the Sharingan of the masked man had already sent out a special power, and the time and space suddenly shook. Naruto was stunned for a moment, but there was no change in the surroundings, and the masked man was shocked. "How is that possible? You are not affected by my magic," the masked man exclaimed. "Humph, what tricks." Although Naruto is a traveler, due to the time relationship of travel, he did not know the existence of this limited yudu. "Demonic illusion is useless to me." The masked man snorted, and suddenly looked at Sakura next to Naruto. "If that's the case, I'll have to borrow your girl's mental space." A strange wave of space traveled to Sakura, and Naruto beside him was instantly hit. Just as Naruto reacted, he grabbed Sakura and was about to use the Hiraishin technique, but was shocked to find that he could no longer sense it. To those spacetime coordinates. What's going on? After being shocked, Naruto came back to his senses and found that the masked man in front of him had long since disappeared. And Sakura in his arms was also looking at himself in confusion. Naruto didn't know, just when the masked man launched a limited moonlight towards Sakura, he was already pulled into another time and space together. At this time, in the original time and space, watching the two disappear into his own magic, the masked man was a little scared. The stock has been firmly guarded, and his own art can't see through his mind at all, and the art can't act on him at all. Fortunately, there is Sakura next to him, so that he can perform magic on Sakura, and then indirectly pull Naruto into the world imagined by Sakura, which solves Naruto's trouble. However, he was not at ease. This technique was activated only by relying on the power of the tailed beast. The world created by the power of the tailed beast that he used before will soon be broken by the power of Naruto. Moreover, this technique can only work on a person once. When that world is broken, the next time it can no longer be used on the opponent. However, as long as they can hold him back for a while, Kabuto and Pain's side can move. As long as you control Naruto for a while first, Collector Wei and Yaoi first, and you can directly deal with Naruto next time. At this time, in the limited time and space of Yudu, Naruto and Sakura frowned. Because they found that the medical team that was still around just now had disappeared. The masked man has also left, and the members of the medical team are gone. What the hell is going on? Sakura asked Naruto in confusion. Naruto frowned, and he could feel a strange spatial force surrounding him at this time. This force seemed to isolate him from something, which was very uncomfortable. Because he can no longer sense those time and space coordinates, this is definitely an extremely abnormal thing. Recalling what the masked man said before, Naruto was slightly surprised. Could it be demonic illusion? He closed his eyes slightly, and suddenly a powerful force of natural origin poured into his body, and his body suddenly rose with golden light, mysterious runes appeared all over his body, and a black strip of 6 paths appeared on his face. Mark. Sakura looked at Naruto's current form in surprise, feeling the unparalleled oppressive power, a little shocked and a little dazed. Naruto, what's the matter? You are. Sakura looked at him suspiciously. However, Naruto ignored her and looked at the surrounding scenery with a distressed look on his face. It's not demonic illusion. Is it a very advanced time-space ninjutsu? After regaining his senses, Naruto withdrew his natural mode and looked at Sakura with a wry smile. It seems that we may have fallen into the masked man's technique, so let's investigate it first. Suddenly caught in an unknown technique and time and space, Naruto was very anxious. Now the situation on the battlefield is changing rapidly. He didn't expect the masked man to suddenly give himself such a ruthless move, which he never expected. Sakura frowned and nodded slightly. It seems that we should go back to the headquarters first, maybe we can find some clues. Chapter 332 Exploration and Doubt. A quiet night, with the full moon rising, Naruto and the two stood outside the Kumogakure village, but they saw that the village that was supposed to be in ruins was restored to its original state, and it was no longer the same as before. This seemed to be the Kumogakure village before it was destroyed. Naruto and Sakura looked at each other, and both saw the doubt and surprise in the other's eyes. At the gate of Kumogakure village, several ninjas standing guard are constantly searching for the surrounding scene. Fortunately, the two of Naruto stood farther away, and they hadn't found them yet. Let's go to the village and have a look, Naruto whispered. Sakura nodded. The two disappeared in place, and sneaked into the Kumogakure village from another part of the village. A Hiraishin slammed into the ground of the street in Kumogakure village with a slam, and Naruto quietly appeared with Sakura a Hiraishin technique. There were no pedestrians on the street, and the patrolling ninjas did not find the two sneaking in. Naruto took Sakura around to search for clues. An hour later, the two stopped on a mountain peak in Kumogakure village and looked at the village under their feet. Naruto sighed suddenly. It seems that this world is no longer our original world. Yeah, what should we do now, Naruto? Sakura also had no clue and turned to ask Naruto. If she was left to suddenly encounter such a strange situation, she would definitely panic in her heart. Fortunately, now that Naruto was by her side, she would no longer be afraid. Naruto frowned and thought for a moment, then slowly said, "Let's go back to Konoha. This is not the original Kumogakure village. I hope we can find some clues in Konoha. After all, we are still ninjas in Konoha." Yeah, Sakura nodded in response. The two were on their way all night. Since all the time and space coordinates originally set by Naruto were gone, they could only rush to Konoha with Sakura at this time. The Land of Thunder is still a long way from the Land of Fire, and it will take at least the next day to get there with the speed of the two of them. However, Naruto knew that this was not the time to sit down and rest, so his feet kept moving towards Konoha for a while. Konoha Village, the Land of Fire, in the evening of the second day. However, they did not enter the village through the guards at the gate, because this world was a different world to them, and in Naruto's cautious style, he dragged Sakura and went straight to the back of Hokage Rock. Out of familiarity with Konoha's defense, Naruto and the two quickly sneaked into the Konoha village. After searching around as they did in the Kumogakure village, the two quietly appeared on the roof of a building, and after investigation. The most important thing I discovered after the exploration was that the fourth avatar of the fourth Hokage on the Hokage Rock had actually changed. Dad, Sakura exclaimed, covering her mouth lightly, staring at the head portrait that had become her father's face, her eyes full of shock and puzzlement. Naruto couldn't help being stunned for a moment. He, who didn't know the plot of the theatrical version, was also very puzzled by this, and he was more certain that this fundamental and the original idea belonged to two different worlds. After all, how could Sakura's dad be the fourth Hokage? However, this world is not demonic illusion, it seems to be a real world, which makes Naruto extremely puzzled. Does Obito Master know the jumping law of parallel space? Even you can't achieve this level of space jump, right? In fact, Naruto didn't know that this world limited to the moon is not a parallel space, nor is it the world of demonic illusion, but a half virtual and half real world between the two, a fantasy world created by people's hearts. The world derived from it, the power of limiting the moon is only to materialize it. However, the power that limited Yudu before was not derived from Naruto's mind, but it was created from Sakura's body, and Naruto was forcibly pulled into this world by the masked man. It can be said that the present world is the product of Sakura's spiritual world, embodied by the masked man with the power to limit the moon. On this basis, the world is also under the control of the masked man. Unfortunately, Naruto doesn't know this. He is now trying to find the weakness of this space, and then break this technique and return to the original world. Otherwise, the world lacks his own existence, and I am afraid that the coalition forces will be difficult to fight against Akatsuki. After thinking for a while, Naruto said, "Sakura, there are too many strange things in this world. It seems that the Konoha here is still in the reign of the 5th generation Hokage, so my identity must be hidden first, otherwise I will be brings a lot of trouble." Sakura came back to her senses after hearing the words, and said with a slight start, "That's right, then Naruto, take off this robe first." Naruto took off the 6th generation Hokage, and Sakura took it and said, "I'll keep it for you first, and I'll give it to you when I return to the original world." With that, she let go of the Hokage. "Into your carry-on backpack." Taking off his robes, Naruto was wearing only a white shirt, looking at the pedestrians coming and going on the streets of Konoha at night below, he smiled slightly at Sakura. Let's go, now let's have a look first. Are there any familiar people nearby? Go and find out the situation. Quote. Yeah, Sakura nodded, and suddenly her face became slightly embarrassed. Yuhi said a little embarrassedly, however, my stomach is a little hungry. Naruto was stunned for a moment, and then he remembered that the two had not eaten for 24 hours, and he had been in a state of nervousness but didn't notice anything. Now that Sakura mentioned it, his stomach growled. Shaking his head helplessly, he suddenly took out the pastries that Sakura gave him before, and smiled. It happens that the pastries you gave me before, Sakura, haven't been eaten yet, so we can eat them. So, the two came to a secluded river and sat on a public seat to start eating pastries. After the two finished eating, their stomachs were a little full, and Naruto sighed slightly. If you don't eat for a day, you will be hungry, and if you eat, you will be full. It seems that this world is really not an environment, Sakura. I think we are being trapped in one of your spaces. Sakura turned her head and wondered, but, why is this space so big? It's exactly the same as the original world. Is that guy's ability really so powerful? Theoretically, the masked man does not have such strength, but I heard that the technique seems to be called limited moonlight. It is very likely to be a combination of time-space ninjutsu and demonic illusion. Naruto lowered his head to analyze Tao. After all, if I want to open up such a real space and create so many characters, I can't think of a second person besides God. Chapter 333 What a big change. That's right. Sakura thought for a while, and nodded, but she didn't know anything about time-space ninjutsu, Yudu and the like, so she was at a loss at this time. After eating, Sakura felt a little sleepy. After all, she hadn't closed her eyes all day and night, so she couldn't help leaning on Naruto's shoulder and fell asleep. Seeing that she was really tired, Naruto shook his head helplessly, and gently picked her up sideways, intending to go to a hotel for a short rest, and ask someone else tomorrow to ask about the situation. Sakura, who had been awakened, leaned against Naruto's chest. Seeing Naruto pick her up, Yuhi's dizziness flashed on her face, and she closed her eyes again and fell asleep. Naruto's embrace is so warm, and involuntarily makes people feel extra reassured. Sakura thought sweetly, in fact, it's not bad to be alone in a world with Naruto now. At this moment, several figures suddenly walked towards Naruto from not far away. Taking a closer look, Naruto's face was slightly happy. It is Kiba, Shino and Hinata, three people. However, when Naruto's eyes swept over Hinata, a surprised expression appeared on his face. Because at this time, Hinata was wearing shorts, with a pair of Bai Shengsheng's thighs exposed, and the upper body was an open coat, directly exposing the mesh chest protector inside, and the two huge meat mountains protruded high and looked extremely dazzling. What's more, Hinata's expression is very different from the original one. He is no longer gentle and shy, but has a domineering face, and the purple mouth Yuhi smeared on the soft lips makes Naruto even more sure that Hinata is in this world. Exception. This is not Hinata at all, no matter how you look at it, this is the image of a domineering female boss. However, this kind of Hinata is really delicious. Naruto suddenly had such a strange idea in his heart. While Naruto was observing her, the three Hinatas had already walked towards Naruto. Hinata. Naruto had a smile on his face. He was about to greet them when he saw Hinata suddenly rush up and slashed at Sakura in Naruto's arms with an angry palm. Naruto was suddenly startled, his body flashed slightly, and he quickly jumped out to the rear, and at this time, Sakura, who noticed the strangeness, also opened his eyes, and when he found that Hinata actually attacked him directly, his face couldn't help showing a look of disgust. She quickly jumped off Naruto and asked, Hinata, what are you doing? Why are you attacking us? Humph. Sakura, I didn't expect you to be with Menma here. Are you courting death? Hinata rushed in front of Sakura, grabbed her collar, and said coldly, Menma is my man. You are not allowed to touch your fingers again. Sakura was immediately shocked by the cold tone, and she quickly looked at Naruto, a little aggrieved. Naruto has already reacted at this time. It seems that the changes in this world are far from superficial, and even the characters' personalities have changed. He stepped forward and pulled away Hinata's hand that was holding Sakura's clothes, frowning slightly. "Hinata, your tone is too strong." When Hinata heard the words, an angry expression suddenly appeared on his face. Byakugan opened instantly, the terrifying blood vessels bulged, his eyes stared at Naruto fiercely, his pretty face was close to Naruto's ear, and he said coldly, "You or me? My man. It can only be my man. If you dare to flirt with other women, be careful that I'm rude to you." With a cold and domineering tone, full of threatening eyes, Naruto burst into sweat, and Sakura looked at her with sweat on his forehead. "Humph. Let's go." After speaking, Hinata snorted coldly and turned to leave. Naruto and Sakura stayed where they were and looked at each other with deep puzzlement in their eyes. The world seems to have changed a lot. Naruto sighed. "And when did I call me Menma?" That night, the two went to a hotel and stayed there. But at this time Sakura couldn't fall asleep. Looking at Naruto who was sitting cross-legged on the couch, eyes closed, Sakura, who was only wearing pajamas, gently got out of bed and came to him and looked at him. Naruto opened his eyes and suddenly asked, "What's wrong with Sakura?" Sakura slowly stretched out his jade hand to hold Naruto's big hand, and said softly, "Naruto, you won't leave me, will you?" Naruto was stunned for a moment, then nodded with a smile. "Yes, of course I won't leave. There are only two of us in this world, how could I leave you alone?" "No, I mean, hey, forget it." Sakura lowered her head a little disappointed. Naruto couldn't help frowning slightly. He held her soft jade hand back and said slowly, "Sakura, if you have anything, just say it. With me here, you don't have to worry about anything." Hearing Naruto's comfort, Sakura suddenly raised his head and said slowly, "Naruto, we will definitely leave this world, right?" "Yeah, this is just a fake world created by that guy. I will never admit the existence of such a world. I will definitely find a way to get out of here," Naruto said firmly. Hearing this, Sakura couldn't help showing a reassuring smile on her face, and she was no longer worried. Originally, she saw that Hinata was so domineering, and she always worried that Naruto would be taken away by her. If she just released it, if Naruto really became her man, then her end would definitely not be good. Where to go? She didn't object to Naruto having another woman. In that world, she had long known that Bai and Zuiyu had a relationship with Naruto. Although she struggled with loss at first, she finally decided to be unrelenting and love her people together, even if it is to share Naruto with other women. Because compared to the pain of losing Naruto, everything seemed less important. So, when Hinata declared here to take Naruto alone, Sakura was actually a little scared in his heart. But now, after hearing that Naruto must go back, her heart finally settled down. Sakura, who put down her worries, finally fell asleep in Naruto's arms with her tired body and mind. Naruto smiled slightly, picked her up and put her on the bed, covered her with a quilt, stood outside the window and stared at the night of Konoha for a while, then opened the window and disappeared into the room in a flash. Although Sakura is resting, he can't rest, because he can't sleep peacefully until he finds out what the hell is going on in this world. Chapter 334 Minato and his wife. Early the next morning, Naruto stood on the Hokage rock, only wearing a white short-sleeved shirt and staring at Konoha at the foot of the Morrowind. One night, he went all over the Konoha village and checked all the places. The thing that left him speechless was that the address of the room he used to live in had been replaced by an ant. Fortunately, I didn't rush in rashly, but I sensed the atmosphere in the room carefully before that. When I found someone inside, I secretly observed it from the window of the room for a while, and then I saw the figure of the ant inside. So in the end he didn't go in either, but after wandering outside the door for a while, he went to Sakura's house, and there was no one in her house. Because the 4 generations of Hokage and his wife died to protect the village, and Sakura was called the son of a hero by the villagers. To be honest, these changes are of no use to how to get out of this world. After Naruto thought for a while, he sighed slightly, and a golden light disappeared on the Hokage rock. Came to Sakura's rented hotel. Naruto found that she had woken up, and when she saw Naruto appear, she immediately jumped up and grabbed Naruto's arm. Naruto, did you go out early in the morning today? I woke up in the morning and saw that you weren't here. Naruto smiled and nodded, without defending, and said with a smile, look at how energetic you look after sleeping. Come with me to see the 5th Hokage here after you wash up, maybe she will know something. 10 minutes later, the two left the hotel and went to the Hokage office together. In the office, the two finally met Tsunade and Shizune in this world, which surprised Naruto, because Tsunade is actually a gentle and rational glasses girl. Shizune was wiping Yuhi's blood and violence. It seems that the personalities of these two people are also reversed like Hinata and the others. However, Naruto is now mentally prepared. After a little surprise, he calmed down and turned to ask, Master Tsunade, do you know the existence of the masked man? Huh, Menma, you mean the masked man? Isn't his business left to your parents? Tsunade was surprised. Sakura on the side was slightly taken aback. Naruto's parents. Who will it be? She has always been curious about how Naruto, who had no parents and no parents, was able to be so strong until he grew up into the 6th generation of Hokage. What kind of parents gave birth to such a genius as him? Sakura was curious about that. Naruto was slightly startled. His parents. Isn't that Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kina? Are they not dead in this world? Sakura's parents who protected the village here, and his own parents. Thinking of this, Naruto frowned slightly. At this moment, the door of the room was suddenly knocked, and two people walked in slowly from the door. Short golden hair, a handsome face, and a well-proportioned figure, it is Namikaze Minato. Beside him was a beautiful Yuhi-haired woman with a ponytail, with a beautiful and lovely face. She didn't look like a mother in her 30s at all, and her youthful and moving appearance looked even more beautiful. Seeing these two people, Naruto couldn't help but froze. Son, why are you here? Minato laughed. I guess our son must have known that we were coming back today, so he's here to meet us. Kina said with a smile. Sakura on the side was stunned. It was these two people. Although she doesn't know Kina, Minato's image is still deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. In the original world, he was the 4th Hokage, the hero who protected the entire village. Unexpectedly, Naruto turned out to be the son of a real hero. However, as the son of a hero, he was treated like that when he was a child. Thinking about it now, Sakura couldn't help but feel bad for him. It turned out that the grievances Naruto suffered were not what he could understand at all. Sakura couldn't help looking at Naruto and the Minato couple. It turned out that he liked Naruto wishful thinking, but he never understood his real past, never understood what he was thinking. What do you like about yourself like this? What about love? Sakura couldn't help but sighed softly. At this time, the 4 generations of the couple had already explained the task to Tsunade. It turned out that they went to investigate the masked man and found that the masked man here was extremely powerful. Only with the Book of Vermilion Moon that Jiraiya sacrificed for his life could he defeat the other party. When Naruto heard the news, he couldn't help but be shocked. Masked man. That being said, there are still masked men in this world. Could it be the original masked man Obito? Could it be that he also entered this world? Thinking of this, Naruto couldn't hold back anymore. Master Tsunade, please tell me where the masked man is now. I'll find him now, Naruto asked. The 4th generation couple was taken aback, and Kai-nai shouted, what did you say? Are you crazy? Didn't you seek death by going to him alone? Naruto glanced at her and said lightly, I have something to do, I have to go. Bastard. Kai-nai rushed up, punched Naruto with a punch, and shouted, how can you say such a thing? How can we parents feel at ease if you go here alone? Why are you still so ignorant when you are so big? I'm so mad at me. Seeing the fist that Kina had smashed over and her terrifying appearance when she was furious, Naruto couldn't help sweating on his forehead, and he dodged her attack in a flash, but he didn't give up. I have to go. Even if it's you guys. I have to stop it. Seeing that the conflict between the fourth generation couple and Naruto was getting deeper and deeper, Tsunade waved his hand and persuaded softly, that's it, I will send you both to retrieve the Book of Vermilion Moon together on the next mission. Let's tentatively set off tomorrow. Quote. No, I want to go now. Naruto shouted immediately. The situation in the original world was urgent, and he simply had no time to waste it. Hey, at least you have to be considerate of your parents. Your parents have just returned from a mission, so if you leave without taking a break, you might get twice the result with half the effort. Shizune on the side suddenly exclaimed. Naruto glanced at her, not expecting that Shizune, who was originally quiet and gentle, had become so violent. Naruto no longer wanted to stay in this upside-down world. However, what she said also makes sense. If you start now, the 4 generations of couples are indeed very tired. If they were alone on the road, they would never have told themselves the location of the Book of Vermilion Moon, let alone the trace of the masked man. And now that I have not obtained their information, it is difficult for a person to find where the masked man is. Even with a wide area search using the power of nature, it is very difficult to find a time-space ninjutsu master like the masked man. Chapter 335 Inner Anger. After leaving the Hokage office, Naruto and Sakura went to eat. Originally, the 4th generation couple wanted to invite him home, but when they saw Naruto and Sakura together, they smiled ambiguous at them, and it was interesting. Left. After the two bought something to eat, they had nothing to do. Sakura just followed Naruto all the way and didn't speak because of some guilt, while Naruto was thinking about the masked man. The two walked silently all the way. On the street, pedestrians around them pointed at them one after another and talked a lot. Menma actually climbed the hero's sun. It's really enviable. Yeah, if I could walk with Sakura, it would be worth dying. Naruto shook his head helplessly after listening to the chatter of the people around him, but Sakura didn't have any happy thoughts in his heart. At this time, a group of children suddenly ran over and surrounded Sakura, shouting for her autograph. Sakura was stunned for a while, and looked at Naruto a little bewildered. Naruto nodded at her and smiled. Sakura squatted down and signed the names of these children one by one, and responded to some of their questions. After the children were satisfied, she stood up and looked at Naruto and said, "Occasionally be the son of a hero. It feels good to be worshipped." Quote. Naruto smiled lightly. Suddenly I heard Sakura say again, "Actually, this world is not bad. Naruto, didn't you meet your parents you've never met before, and get a mother's love you've never had before?" Hearing Sakura say this, Naruto couldn't help frowning. "Sakura, you must know that everything here is just an illusion. If you are immersed in these illusions, the outside world may have been destroyed long ago." Was a hint of dissatisfaction in Naruto's tone. Sakura was shocked when she heard the words. Her face couldn't help but panic, and said anxiously, "Yes, I'm sorry. Naruto, I shouldn't say that. I'm too selfish, Naruto. Don't be angry, okay?" Seeing her panicked and frightened appearance, Naruto softened his face, hugged her shoulders and said softly, "Hey, I'm not angry. I'm just reminding you not to sink into this world. After all, I also know that you want to get the love of my parents, right?" Sakura lowered her head slightly, her shoulders twitched slightly, and her tears fell to the ground. Suddenly she threw herself into Naruto's arms and began to cry. "Naruto, you are really, really too much. Alright, woo. Quote. I thought Naruto would hate me, but I didn't want him to be so attentive, understanding and tolerant of himself. Such a man is really unbearable. At this moment, Sakura can't wait to integrate himself into Naruto. In the body. Because of their resistance to this world, Naruto and Sakura have been shopping until the night before returning to the hotel. Sakura released the arm that held Naruto firmly, and said softly, "Naruto, Thank you for being with me all the time. You should go back and live today, otherwise your parents will be worried. Hearing this, Naruto shook his head. I won't admit anyone in this world, now I just want to stay with you. So I won't go back to the so-called home, I don't want to have anything with the people in this world. Fetters. Naruto. Sakura couldn't help being moved, and couldn't help but threw himself into his arms again. At this moment, a light cough suddenly sounded behind the two of them. Sakura hurriedly came out of Naruto's arms, but saw Minato standing behind the two, looking at Naruto with a smile. Menma, why didn't you come home so late? Your mother asked me to come and find you, Minato said with a smile. Naruto glanced at Sakura, shook his head at Minato. Sorry, I won't be going back tonight. This can't be done. If I don't take you back, your mother will freak out. She won't be as talkative as I am when she comes to look for you, Minato hurriedly advised. Naruto frowned slightly. Although he knew that the Minatos were very concerned about him, he always felt awkward. If he was the original Naruto, he might have really moved, but now Naruto is just a transmigrator. He has long lost the concept of family affection, so even if he is cared for, although he will feel warm in his heart, he will not have such strong thoughts. As a transmigrator, you should be independent, decisive, and will not force the fetters that do not belong to you. At this time, seeing the two people who were a little stiff, although Sakura knew that Naruto was here to accompany her, she was very moved, but she knew that she couldn't be so selfish. Even if it was a fake world, she could let Naruto enjoy the day. Happiness is also good. Thinking of this, Sakura had a smile on her face and said to Naruto, you better go back, it's okay for me to be alone here. Haha, look how sensible Sakura is, Naruto, you can't spend the night outside. Minato also laughed. Hearing Sakura's words, Naruto couldn't help but sigh. Why didn't he know that Sakura was doing it for his own good? The point is, everything in this world is just masked man's ninjutsu, and he doesn't want to have feelings for anyone here except Sakura. Okay, since you said so, Sakura, then I'll go back for a while tonight, and I'll come back to you tomorrow morning. Naruto hugged Sakura lightly, and followed Minato back. Looking at the backs of the two, Sakura couldn't help but whisper softly, Naruto, even if this is a fake world, I hope you can get some parental love. Following Minato back home, Naruto saw the sumptuous dinner prepared on the table. Kunai was sitting at the table watching the two enter the room with a smile on his face. We're back, Minato smiled. Naruto walked into the door and said lightly, I'm back. After that, he sat down to eat. Menma, what's the matter with you? Are you unhappy? And why don't you even wash your hands when you eat? Kina couldn't help but nag. Naruto didn't want to entangle with them too much, so he got up to wash his hands after hearing the words, and the family sat down and had dinner happily. Minato couple who reunited with their son after returning from the mission. Naruto was not happy. Instead, he was full of anger at the masked man. Until now, he seems to have understood the reason why the masked man brought himself and Sakura in. He wanted to immerse himself in this beautiful world and never want to return to the original world. Such a guy Naruto will never let go of playing with one's emotions like this. Chapter 336 Retrieve the Book of Vermilion Moon. After a simple meal, Naruto returned to his so-called room, lay on the bed and fell asleep. He hadn't slept well in the past 2 days. Although he didn't feel very tired, he fell asleep as soon as he lay down. In the consciousness space, it is a bright scene. Naruto suddenly appeared here, can't help but feel a little strange. He didn't want to come to the consciousness space at all, but he came inexplicably. At this moment, a gentle voice sounded in front, Naruto. Naruto finally saw a familiar figure in the light, with long yuhi-colored hair in a shawl, and a calm smile on his face. Uzumaki Kina in his consciousness space. Seeing the strange and puzzled look on Naruto's face, Kina smiled and said, Are you wondering why you came here? Naruto asked, Did you call me here? Well, you're so smart. Kunai stepped forward, stretched out his white arm and pressed Naruto's shoulder, looked at him seriously and said, "I have seen some things outside your body, it seems to have encountered some difficulties." Naruto was stunned for a moment, and couldn't help but be a little surprised. "Have you seen it all?" "Yes, I came out to take a look when I had nothing to do in your body. I didn't expect you to be in such a place. When I saw there was another me, I was shocked," Chennai said, and suddenly frowned again. "But everything in this world seems to be fake. I am a chakra spiritual body, and I can perceive that everything in this world is fake." Naruto was slightly startled when he heard the words. "Are you saying that you can feel the falsity of this world? So this makes me feel that the real world is not without flaws, right?" Chennai nodded when he heard the words. "Well, maybe you should know this question when you find the masked man in this world." Naruto couldn't help but feel cheerful. Originally, he thought it was a place similar to a parallel space. If he wanted to go out, he could only start by cracking space ninjutsu. Now, after Kina said this, he was suddenly full of infinite confidence. "Maybe we will see you later. After reaching the masked man, there is really a way to crack it." Seeing the confident smile on Naruto's face, Kainai smiled with relief. "Naruto, you have to remember that no matter how difficult it is, I will always be with you." Early the next morning, after Naruto had breakfast, he went to find Sakura with Minato and his wife. Sakura also got up early, and when Naruto arrived, she had already prepared everything. It was very easy to find the Book of Vermilion Moon even by Naruto alone, but the fourth-generation couple couldn't rest assured, not only the two of them, but also Kakashi and Guy. In this world, the characters of Kakashi and Guy are completely reversed, the listless Guy and the passionate Kakashi. However, Naruto was immune to these, so he took care of himself and Sakura took the lead. In this way, a group of 6 people quickly arrived at the location of the mission. Looking down from a height, the Book of Vermilion Moon was in a forest valley. Kakashi, Guy and the others did not dare to go down rashly, and decided to use Shadow Clone to investigate the situation. But at the critical moment, Kakashi lost his energy, while Naruto and Sakura rushed forward without hesitation. Because Naruto has already sensed that there is no particularly powerful aura in the surrounding area, although he has not found the Book of Vermilion Moon, this does not prevent him from looking for it, because he already knows that the Book of Vermilion Moon is in this valley. Strength can be found in no time. Minatos were shocked to see the two galloping down below. "These two children are too messy. It's very dangerous." Shadow Clone Technique. At this time, Naruto had already hand-sealed with both hands, and hundreds of clones appeared in an instant, spreading out to search. "Hey, there's no way." The Minatos sighed helplessly when they saw Naruto being so messed up, and they both flew down. At this moment, someone in Naruto's shadow clone suddenly triggered a spell trap, and suddenly there was a loud bang, and several huge white smoke rose up. The white smoke dissipated, and 3 toads like small hills lay in front of Naruto. It is the 3 brothers Wentai. If you want to pass, just pass the level of Lao Su first. Toad Wenta seemed to have no sympathy for Naruto at all, and coldly stopped Shadow Clone with many Naruto. "Hey, found it. It turns out that the Book of Vermilion Moon is behind Wentai and the others." After seeing the huge toad not far away, Naruto and Sakura had already learned the location of the Book of Vermilion Moon from the information of their clones. "Sakura, you and my avatar go to restrain Fuinta, and I'll take out the Book of Vermilion Moon," Naruto said. Sakura nodded and walked away immediately. At this time, the many clones around have also seen Toad Wentai, and they all rushed over there. Sakura mixed in with the clone group, and rushed towards Toad Wenta. And Naruto has quietly circled to the rear of Wentai without being discovered by them. Boom! A loud noise came, and the ground shook suddenly. Naruto looked back and saw that it was Sakura who had already made his move, and saw that she slammed the ground under Gao Wentai with a ruthless punch, knocking the surrounding area within a range of dozens of meters. The ground was all smashed and shattered, and the 3 toads immediately attracted their attention and attacked her. However, with Sakura's strength, it is not so easy to be hurt by them. Naruto doesn't have to worry about it. With the help of many shadow clone, he doesn't need to be afraid of danger. Hand seal was soon released. Holding this very ancient-looking bamboo slip, Naruto couldn't help but wonder, is this the Book of Vermilion Moon? Get this to defeat the masked man. He doubted it. A Hiraishin technique, Naruto suddenly returned to Sakura's side, smiling, the mission is complete. Let's withdraw. After unlocking Shadow Clone, Naruto quickly evacuated the place with Sakura. Just at this time the four-generation couple just arrived. The two of them looked at Naruto and couldn't help but look shocked. Menma, I didn't expect you to act so fast. It seems that we still underestimate you. Naruto handed him the Book of Vermilion Moon and said with a faint smile, this is the Book of Vermilion Moon, now can you take me to find the masked man for a showdown? After the Minatos were silent for a while, they said, this matter needs to be discussed in the long run. We'd better tell Lord Hokage after we go back. Chapter 337 Into the Bathhouse. Naruto couldn't help frowning. He really didn't have much time. If he was delayed here, the original world really didn't know what would happen. However, if he uses his own strength to find out where the masked man is, it will probably take more time, so although he is anxious at this time, he has no choice but to agree to them. Okay, but I hope you can take me there soon, Naruto said with a frown. After returning to the village, several people handed the Book of Vermilion Moon to Tsunade, and after researching it, they found that it was said that it would be effective only during the Yuhi month. Naruto was immediately speechless, so he had to wait until Yuhiyu came out before he could face the masked man. And now in this situation, they won't take themselves there at all. There is no way to deal with some strange rules in this world, and Naruto is a little angry. After leaving the Hokage office with Sakura, they wandered the streets. Hey, Tsunade-sama and the others have to wait until Yuhiyuki. It seems that we can't go out for the time being. Sakura sighed slightly. Naruto frowned, bowed his head in thought, and did not speak. At this moment, the two happened to pass the door of a bathhouse. Sakura glanced inside, and suddenly pulled Naruto and said softly, Naruto, why don't we go in and take a bath? It's useless to think about these things now, why not relax for the next battle? Naruto didn't have much interest in hearing this, but when he saw Sakura's excited look, he nodded and agreed to her. The two walked in. The waiter gave the two of them a very ambiguous look. After realizing that Naruto actually brought Sakura, the son of a hero, a look of envy and jealousy appeared on his face. In the room, Naruto closed his eyes and leaned in the bathtub, enjoying the relaxation brought by the warm water, and he was sorting out the events of the past few days in his mind. Masked Man, Book of Vermilion Moon, Time of Yuhi Moon. The illusion that Chennai said. These are the most critical aspects of this space. The Book of Vermilion Moon has been obtained, and now we are waiting for the so-called Yuhi Moon to meet the most crucial masked man. Thinking of this, Naruto couldn't wait. After taking a deep breath, he slowly stabilized and adjusted his mood. No matter how urgent he is now, he must calm down. Although he is very worried about the safety of Bai and Zuiyu on the battlefield, the more he does, the more calm he must be, otherwise he will be in chaos. How can he escape this space shackles? It seems that I haven't cultivated to the home yet. After the strength is strong enough, the cultivation of the state of mind is also essential. But after this period of training, he has found that his heart is more stable and tenacious, and he is no longer worried even if he encounters great difficulties. At this moment, the water waves suddenly swayed slightly, and Naruto opened his eyes and saw that a small, white and tender foot was dipping into the water. Raising his head slightly, Naruto couldn't help but stunned, only to see Sakura standing by the bath with a white towel on his head, naked, with one hand covering the tender bulge in front of her chest, and the other hand firmly blocking it. In the triangle area of the lower body, the expression on his face is very shy. When she saw Naruto suddenly open her eyes, she couldn't help but let out a soft cry, her face full of shame and Yuhi. Naruto. No, don't look. Naruto froze for a moment, looked away from her tender body, and tried to only look at her tender face, and said, "Sakura, why did you come into?" I just wanted to wipe Naruto's back." Sakura lowered her head and said with a dizzy look on her face. She stood in front of Naruto and accepted his direct gaze. A feeling of weakness in the legs. The next moment, she quickly squatted down and entered the bathtub. At the moment when she squatted down, Naruto's eyes immediately caught the delicate flower stamens in her slightly open pink jade legs, and a pink yuhi-colored hair suddenly appeared in his eyes. Naruto's heart jumped at that moment, anger surged up in his chest, and he quickly glanced away. Tender body entered the water. Sakura only exposed one head on the water, and looked at him with a slightly pale face. The girl's shy and expectant gaze in her tender body made Naruto temporarily fall into an embarrassing situation. Compared with Hinata, Sakura's chest is indeed an airport. Even if it is compared with Sasu's, it is one size smaller. Naruto looked at the smooth lines on the water on Sakura's chest, and couldn't help thinking to himself, if Samui or Tsunade was here, and that scene was definitely choppy. Little embarrassed by Naruto staring at him, Sakura couldn't help but push him up and said softly, "Naruto, let me wipe your back." "Oh, good." Naruto was stunned for a moment, then turned around and turned his back to her. Sakura's tender face looked at his broad back with a slight yuhi, took off the towel on his head, soaked it in water, stretched out his hand and wiped it on his back. The movements were gentle and soothing, making Naruto feel extremely comfortable. "Sakura, it's so comfortable." Naruto couldn't help but exclaim. Sakura couldn't help laughing happily after hearing this. "As long as you are comfortable, I haven't played my best last time with Ino." "Oh, why is that?" "Well, because I think the atmosphere is better now. It's just the two of us, and I feel very satisfied." Sakura chuckled, her hands getting softer and softer. Suddenly, Naruto felt a warm and smooth body against his back, and a pair of small hands wrapped around his chest and tightly wrapped around him. Sakura. Naruto paused slightly, and he couldn't help feeling Sakura's soft and smooth body, as well as her thumping heart. "Naruto, don't move, okay?" Sakura suddenly begged. "It's hard to get along alone, can you just let me be satisfied?" Naruto just wanted to turn around and had to stop moving and let her lean on him. In the warm water, Naruto's body couldn't help heating up, because the delicate body behind him was gently grinding. The two hills were not large in scale, but they were soft and full of elasticity. The dots are raised continuously across Naruto's back, bringing him a kind of green and strange enjoyment. "Sakura, I can't stand you doing this." Chapter 338 Sakura _ Naruto, I don't want to wait any longer. Sakura suddenly moved his hand to Naruto's abdomen. The touch of the warm nephrite swept across his skin. Naruto trembled slightly, and then, when he wanted to say something, a pair of tender little hands had instantly grasped the tall giant below Naruto. "Ah, Sakura." Naruto shuddered, blood surged up, and the bottom suddenly became harder. Feeling the powerful pulsation of the huge object in her hands, Sakura's entire body trembled slightly. Such a bold move was something she had never done before, but at this moment, she felt that she could no longer suppress her heart. Being alone with Naruto has always been her long-cherished wish, but now, in this world created by a masked man, she finally got her wish. Therefore, she can no longer wait, she can no longer just stay beside him. She can no longer just stare at his back, she has to act. Use the most daring action to tell Naruto, "I love you deeply." "Naruto, do you know, how long have I waited for this opportunity? You have always been surrounded by so many girls who are better than me. Compared with them, I am nothing, but now, I can finally meet alone. You're together, you know. I'm so happy now," Sakura said softly, clutching the giant under Naruto tightly. Naruto couldn't hear what she said at this time, because the feeling of being tightly wrapped by those little hands under him made his bathing fire burst out, and it was already on the verge of being uncontrollable. Sakura has always liked him. He could already see this kind of thing, but he didn't know that Sakura liked him so strongly. The actions she made at this time were enough to show that she was depressed in her heart. What a long time feeling. To be honest, Naruto was still very moved, that a young girl could express her love to herself so boldly. He slowly stretched out his hand and held Sakura's jade hand in the water. Turning around, Naruto leaned against the edge of the bathtub, holding Sakura's hands and staring at her charming Yuhi's pretty face. At this moment, Sakura was dazzled, her eyes were full of fascinated eyes, she moaned softly, and groaned, her delicate body was already leaning against Naruto's chest, and her body was tightly pressed against Naruto's abrupt giant. Naruto. She raised her head slightly and opened her soft lips, spitting out the fragrance of orchid from her mouth, a little bit closer to Naruto's lips, hoping to get Naruto's kiss. At this time, Naruto has long been immersed in the warm water, his hands have penetrated into Sakura's round buttocks, and his big hands firmly cover the two soft and smooth buttocks, above the petals. Sakura closed her blue eyes slightly, her soft lips pressed tightly against Naruto. Gently holding up her light body under the water, Naruto's body sank slightly, allowing the giant to come to the delicate stamens of the girl. Naruto, come on, I can do it. Feeling the huge size, Sakura couldn't help but feel a little scared. How could something so big be stuffed into her body? However, out of her love for Naruto, she couldn't care less about it. After a slight tremor, she couldn't help but take the initiative to separate her legs so that Naruto could touch her underside more naturally. And Naruto's fiery thing was against her delicate place. Even if she didn't go in, it made her feel soft. She stretched her arms around Naruto's neck tightly, and called in his ear, I want me. Naruto. Yeah, Naruto immediately squeezed in from that delicate place when he straightened up, and after encountering obstacles, he stabbed again, and with Sakura's pained cry, he finally fully entered her body. Okay, it hurts. Sakura couldn't help showing a tear in the corner of his eyes, but his face was full of satisfaction and happiness. Really, incredible. Sakura looked up at Naruto's eyes. It's so big, actually, really went in. Naruto smiled lightly, kissed the tears from the corner of her eyes lovingly, and said gently, if it hurts, just rest. Sakura nodded obediently, resting her head on his chest, and the two of them were leaning against the bathtub. After a while, Sakura felt the waves below, and her body couldn't help but get hotter and hotter. Naruto, I want to move, okay. Sakura looked up for his opinion. You should have moved a long time ago. I'm going to die. Naruto bowed his head and smiled bitterly, because when he went in just now, he felt the amazing tightness in Sakura, and he was afraid of breaking her, so he didn't immediately move, and later when I heard her talk about pain, I couldn't move even more. So I kept letting her lean on him and let her take a breath, just because the place was too tight and comfortable, and Naruto endured it very hard for a while. Fortunately, Sakura offered to move. Naruto held her with both hands and let her lean against the edge of the bath, with his hands on the edge of the pool, while Sakura put his arms on Naruto's chest slightly, and Yuhi looked up at him with a wet face. I'm about to start, Naruto reminded her, and then moved slightly. Sakura immediately became light and groaned. She never thought she would make such a charming voice. Her face suddenly became bloody, and even a layer of Yuhi dizzy appeared on her neck. Naruto laughed excitedly, seeing that Sakura was so sensitive, he immediately accelerated a little. In the warm water, the two constantly shrugged, moved, and breathed. The water waves fluctuated with extremely high frequencies. Accompanied by Sakura's painful and happy chanting, they staged an infinitely beautiful bath in this bath. Knee lens. Finally, a long hoof groaned in his throat. Sakura's body suddenly tensed, and he didn't move. His hands firmly supported Naruto's chest, biting silver kiba. His face was full of Yuhi waves, and his blue eyes turned up slightly. His whole body twitched slightly. It's finally high tide. Looking at Sakura who was leaning weakly by the bath, Naruto gave a wry smile. She was so sensitive that she didn't use much effort at all. She just moved a few times and she couldn't take it anymore. But there is no sign of eruption at all, it is uncomfortable to hold back. After a while, Sakura under him breathed out, looked up at Naruto, felt the still hard thing in Naruto's body, and couldn't help showing a guilty look on his face. Naruto, am I so useless? Sakura said softly, a little afraid to look at him. Chapter 339 Enemy Attack. Naruto gently separated her and came out of her body, causing her to let out a long breath. Okay, it's nothing, don't blame yourself. Naruto comforted. But you still seem to be suffering. Although she was comforted by Naruto, Sakura still felt a little guilty, because she was so useless. She only cared about her own satisfaction, but did not let Naruto vent. However, if he wanted to use his body to let Naruto vent, he would definitely be killed. For a time, Sakura was full of guilt. Looking at her sad face, Naruto couldn't help but have a headache, and suddenly he thought of another way. His eyes couldn't help falling on Sakura's small soft lips. Sakura, if you insist on satisfying me, I can teach you a method. Naruto said with a slight beating in his heart. Really? Sakura couldn't help but look happy when she heard the words, and looked at him slightly excitedly. If there is really a way, I will do it no matter what it is. Seeing her happy and innocent look, Naruto couldn't help feeling ashamed of his own thoughts, but then he thought, Sakura is his own woman anyway, so it's okay to do some shameful things, right? Thinking like this, Naruto got up and sat on the edge of the bath, exposing the huge object to Sakura's eyes. He looked down at Sakura in the bath and smiled slightly. Sakura, actually, you can use your mouth. Huh, Sakura couldn't help but startled when she heard this, and immediately called out with a face like Yuhi's. But wouldn't it be, will it be dirty? Naruto couldn't help but sighed slightly. If you think it's dirty, forget it, after all, it may be a little unacceptable to you. He couldn't help thinking of Yuhi in his heart. If Yuhi was here, he would be happy to help him, right? Naruto, Sakura called out to him, looking at the somewhat disappointed expression on his face. His heart sank, and he stood up and said, I'm sorry, Naruto, I was wrong, I shouldn't have thought like this, I will try my best to help you. Saying that, Sakura closed her eyes and lowered her head abruptly to swallow Naruto's giant thing into her mouth, causing her cheeks to bulge. After Sakura grabbed it, she involuntarily ate it, but she still kept her beautiful eyes tightly closed and didn't dare to open it. Naruto laughed when he saw it. He didn't expect Sakura to be so pure. This most basic oral sex will feel awkward. But looking at her so cute appearance, Naruto also felt pity in his heart, reached out and stroked her pink hair, and then gently pressed her head with regular movements. As for Sakura, who was uncomfortable from the beginning, and gradually became overwhelmed by this kinky and extravagant scene, she couldn't help eating Naruto's giant thing very cooperatively, and there was a burst of coquettish in her throat. Moan. Finally, after a slight hurried shrug, Naruto finally erupted. The white milk spurted into Sakura's mouth in an instant, and some shot directly into her throat. Cough cough cough. Sakura was choked immediately, and quickly let go, coughing, but all the milk was swallowed in her stomach. Naruto, cough, you are too bad. After finally gasping for breath, Sakura couldn't help but look at him with some resentment. I accidentally ate it all in. Sorry, I was too involved just now. Naruto touched his nose embarrassedly. Sakura pulled him into the water, and suddenly smiled softly. It's okay, as long as Naruto you vent out. Although it feels weird to eat those things, but the taste is not too bad. Quote. Naruto couldn't help but sweat. Hey, Naruto, now I want it too. After Sakura finished speaking, she suddenly reached out and grabbed Naruto's lower body, while her delicate body leaned up and twisted slightly. When he came out of the bathhouse, Naruto felt a little emotional. He didn't expect that Sakura's bathing desire was so strong in his heart. Naruto was a little embarrassed to hug Sakura, who was having a hard time walking, and he was a little bit out of control. He knew that Sakura's body was too delicate and could not stand it, but at her invitation, he stayed with her for so long. Although both of them tasted the bliss in the end, the consequences and the price were Sakura's swollen lower body and the way she could hardly walk. However, looking at Sakura's sweet face, Naruto couldn't help but smile slightly, hugged her tightly and took her back to the hotel to rest. At this time, in a certain corner, a man with a mask was sitting on the high seat, looking at the unremarkable guy beside him and asked, "You mean that Konoha has obtained the Book of Vermilion Moon? Come beat me, humph. It's ridiculous, I'll see how they beat me. There's no fun in this world anymore, hope it gives me a little excitement. You will meet a very strong opponent." Obito, the masked man, laughed. "Oh, then I'll have to look forward to it." In Konoha village, after half a day's rest and recovery from medical ninjutsu, Sakura's body is no longer in serious trouble. At this time, she looks very happy, holding Naruto's arm all the time and reluctant to leave. Naruto smiled bitterly. "Sakura, you are so close, I'm afraid it will be difficult to even eat later." Sakura's tender face was said to be slightly yuhi, and she said, "I can't bear you. Now people don't want to leave you for a moment." Seeing Sakura relying on him so much, Naruto couldn't help it. At this time, the sky was already dark, and the two planned to go out to eat. Sakura still hugged his arm tightly, and along the way, people kept looking at Naruto with envy and jealousy. However, just as the two were about to enter the restaurant to eat, Naruto suddenly stopped, with a strange look on his face. "What's wrong, Naruto?" Sakura asked, looking at him. Naruto frowned slightly. "I sensed a very powerful aura in Konoha. Come on, let's go and see." Sakura couldn't help but be surprised. Is it the enemy? Chapter 340 Masked Man. At this moment, Tsunade Kakashi and others are facing a sudden appearance of an enemy. "Masked Man. Are you?" Tsunade looked at the man with the fox mask in front of him with a shocked expression, and the powerful AWE-inspiring aura made it hard to look directly at him. "Thank you for retrieving the Book of Vermilion Moon from the enchantment, leave it to me now," the masked man said lightly. "We will never give you the Book of Vermilion Moon." "Really? Then I'll have to use force to seize it." The masked man snorted coldly, and suddenly 9 figures of different shapes appeared around, flying towards Tsunade and the others from all directions. At this time, the Minato couple, Kakashi Guy, and several elite ninjas stopped in front of her to resist the attacks for her. However, those 9 figures attacked extremely sharply, and even Kakashi Guy and the like were unable to resist, and even the Minato couple in this world were stubbornly suppressed. Boom! Tsunade was smashed and flew out, and the Book of Vermilion Moon, which was being guarded, fell out of her hands. Hey, the Book of Vermilion Moon belongs to me." The masked man sneered and flew forward, reaching out to grab the Book of Vermilion Moon. At this moment, a golden light suddenly flashed, and one hand instantly grasped the Book of Vermilion Moon. At the same time, another figure jumped over and caught Tsunade, who was about to fall from midair. "Sakura, protect Tsunade-sama. This guy is up to me." Naruto held the Book of Vermilion Moon. His figure fell in front of the masked man, frowned and stared at him. "You are the masked man. Not the one who claims to be Madara's guy." He set the time and space coordinates on the Book of Vermilion Moon, so when he saw that the technique of Vermilion Moon was about to be taken away, he immediately used the technique of Hiraishin to flash past, but the man in front of him did not seem to be the original masked man. "Madara, are you talking about that man? Hee, it seems that you know him too. He is really a very useful person." The masked man was very surprised by Naruto's appearance. He couldn't help laughing excitedly when he showed his skill. "You are very strong. Are you trying to prevent me from obtaining the Vermilion Moon technique?" Naruto looked at him lightly, his perception expanded, and the look on his face couldn't help but be startled. "So you are." He thought that the masked man in this world was the original masked man Obito, but he didn't think that the person in front of him at this moment was not him, and the guy he had just perceived had the chakra of Kyubi, 9 tails, in his body. And from his own perception, this guy's chakra seems to be blinded by a layer of dark elements. What exactly is going on? Could he be the Kyubi, 9 tails, Jinchuriki, column force of this world? Thinking like this, Naruto couldn't help but said coldly, "Since you know that guy, then take me to see." "Haha, you can beat me first." The masked man laughed out loud, interrupting Naruto's words. He stretched out his hand and waved, and suddenly 9 strange figures around him flew towards Naruto. Seeing that Naruto actually wanted to face this incomparably powerful enemy alone, everyone behind them couldn't help screaming. "Menma, he's the masked man, run away. Leave us alone," Uzumaki Kina cried out in a loud voice. Minato also looked at Naruto with a worried expression. At this time, Sakura, who had rescued Tsunade, stood beside Naruto, clenching his fists with a firm face. "Naruto, let's fight together." Naruto turned his head to look at her and shook his head slightly. "Sakura, this guy is not easy. No matter what, you should stand behind me. This is a battle between me and him." Sakura was stunned for a moment, looked up at Naruto's unquestionable expression, and had to answer obediently and back off. At this time, the 9-faced beast had already rushed in front of Naruto. Seeing that Naruto was surrounded by 9-faced beasts, everyone behind him exclaimed, "Menma, run away, you can't beat him." Naruto smiled faintly, his figure stood still, and a circular spiral energy shield suddenly spun around his body. A faint blue light spread out instantly, and as soon as the 9-faced beast hit the spiral shield, it was bounced out by a powerful spiral energy. "Naruto, that's great, is this your new technique?" Sakura couldn't help but be overjoyed when she saw Naruto knocking up the powerful 9-faced beast without moving. Naruto glanced back at everyone, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "It's rare to meet a powerful opponent in this world. How can you be reconciled if you don't have a good fight? Everyone should back away, there will be more updates here later." Fierce fighting. This. Everyone couldn't help but look surprised. Hearing Sakura calling him Naruto, and seeing him showing such a strong strength, they were a little confused. "You really are strong, that's what makes me worth fighting for," the masked man cried out excitedly when he saw that all his attacks were bounced back. Naruto took out Hiraishinkanai and narrowed his eyes slightly. "Although I don't know what Yuhiyuki was like, but at the moment I saw you, I think I understand. It seems that guy is with you. You have moved your hands and feet. If you defeat you in this way, we can really get out of this world." "Humph," Jing said some inexplicable words. "Let's talk with strength." The masked man sneered, and in an instant he directed the 9-faced beast to attack Naruto, and this time, their attack was even faster than before. As soon as the figure rushed towards Naruto like a missile, Naruto's spiral protective wall suddenly thickened again, and the chakra was fully open. Rasengan wrapped in Naruto, exudes a dazzling blue light, and the figure that the 9-faced beast suddenly pounces on is thrown out again. The snake-shaped figure tried to entangle Naruto, but was torn apart by the rapidly spinning chakra. Fortunately, these things are all undead, so they were spared. So strong. Menma became so strong. Tsunade and others behind him couldn't help but be shocked. However, just as the 9-faced beast was entangled in Naruto, one of them suddenly flew towards Sakura on the other side. Seeing this, Naruto couldn't help but look angry. Swish! Just when the figure just arrived in front of Sakura, a golden light flashed, and Naruto had already embraced Sakura, stretched out his palm and grabbed the head of the attacking thing. With a slight force, Naruto slammed his hand away, staring coldly at the masked man opposite.